But why, some say, the moon? Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why, 35 years ago, fly the Atlantic? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other thing. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win. We choose to go to the moon.
What is up, everybody? Let's watch a movie. So this docu-series we're about to watch was on Discovery Science, like in 2020 was the debut. I think it was a 5 or 6 part docu-series when it aired. 6 part. Yeah, you would know, wouldn't you, Joe?
Yeah,
so at the moment, we've got myself, Dave, Distant, but more interestingly, we've got Joe, the founder architect of Dragon Chain. We've got Greg with Rivet. We've got Lisa Mighty Davis, also known as Litecoin Lisa. And we may have some other friends dropping in throughout the viewing also. Satoshi Sean might drop in. JD, the director, could drop in. And we'll see if Reggie makes it too from Veritasium. So you got us for now. And this is cool. It's been cut down from 6 parts to one like normal length documentary. And I actually haven't watched it since. I watched the whole thing. I remember I went out on I forget what network it was, but there was some streaming network where if you didn't have cable, you could get it. Started with a P, and I don't remember it now. But they were great. Anyway, I got that, and I actually went out and bought an Amazon Fire Stick so that I could bootleg it. Plugged it into my computer and recorded everything because I don't have a DVR. I don't have any of that stuff. But yeah, so we have I think the actual length of the actual documentary now is 1 hour, 33 minutes. And we won't give a whole long intro here, but if you're in chat and you want to talk to other people in chat, maybe just combine efforts on the Dragon Chain YouTube channel chat, or if you have an account on Den Social, the Dragon Chain Layer chat, because this is going out to all different places. It's going to Lisa's channel, it's going to Dragon Chain's channel, and I even put it up on my own channel, threw it up on Odyssey and all that kind of stuff. So we'll see what we get. I tried to let Reddit know, but they decided that they didn't want anything interesting over there that's relevant and new and live, and the mods removed it. So, you know, it is typical.
And we can try to answer, maybe even answer questions if they pop up, or
I was thinking so. Yeah.
try to remind,
So,
you know, okay.
yeah, quick shout out to Mr. C, to Stevie C, to Phil C. A lot of C's in chat right now. We've got Tim Miller, we got Mr. Ulfeng, Mags Ox, Jim Montgomery, and I think that's, if I missed you, sorry about that, but just chime in. If we see something that we can shed light on or some commentary we can make a joke on, throw it in. We'll have a good time. I just opened a beer. This episode brought to you by the new craft beer layer on Den Social.
I might go get a beer.
Yeah.
So
If you see me get up and leave, I may go get a beer.
yeah, there's my opening
Right, right.
spiel. Anybody want to say anything before we press forward here?
I meant to have popcorn. I forgot.
Mm.
So
I was
anyway,
going to say, where do we get to have popcorn? Like, who's got
We
the
should.
popcorn?
I can email you some popcorn, I guess, if you don't have your own. Just
Yeah.
put in a request and we'll queue it up in the process.
right on.
Greg, I love your background there. Is that a
It's a scary
September
clown.
23rd coronal mass ejection clown world, son? What is
You're
that?
muted. You're muted. I think you're muted. You muted? Yes.
I should probably give a proper shout out to the good folks over at Dolly too, because they allowed me to generate this from text resembling something like a clown face in the plume of a vibrantly colored mushroom cloud. I thought it was a sort of apropos to modern times, but this
Awesome.
one
You and I
seems
got to
fit
get
best
together
of
on
all
some
of
of
them.
that because I
You
don't
did a
have a
good job.
Dali account, but I have checked out the what is that open source one called? This is off topic, sorry, but it's,
No, you're talking about
anyway,
the
there's a
one
thing.
that Luther makes, right?
Yeah, it's a thing, and you can have it, and you don't have to have an account. All right.
Yeah.
Anything else? Because as soon as I hit go, it's going to go. And then Lisa, you're our backup. If for some reason Gainesville, Florida explodes and I disappear, I'm streaming this from my personal computer with a source file. So something happens, and I'm not back in just a minute. Somebody's got to bring up, just cue it up on. Oh, here's what I should say: is this is going to be us superimposed on top of the documentary. So if you want to see the regular thing without our banter on top of it, then you can go to two places. You can either go to opensourcemoney.tv to see it there. It's free streaming. Or go to Vision Tree's YouTube channel, also called Open Source Money, is the recording there. And you can see the whole thing at your leisure.
Okay, so you're telling me that I'm backup. So should I have my StreamYard open and be
No.
running it?
You can just pull it up. Don't you know how to pull it up? Because you were teaching me how to do StreamYard. I figured you knew how to pull it up and enable the audio.
If you pull it up and you share the screen with audio, and
that's our backup.
Yeah, and
we'll play it by ear from there.
We can make it work. So.
Nothing's going to go wrong. It's fine.
Yeah. There we go.
Yep. It's gonna cause a glitch in the space-time continuum.
All right.
Yes.
So here we go. Without further ado,
right.
cheers, everyone. Let's roll.
Cheers. I'm gonna go get a beer.
So when we were coming up to the conference and discussing what we would do there, what some of the things that Dragon Chain wants to talk
Look at that
about.
clean-shaven face,
I
Joe.
was gonna say you look like a baby.
I need a DAO so that people can tell me about it.
If you can turn your mics up a little bit, it might help with the mix.
Okay.
It's all the way up. When was this filmed?
20, well, I don't know. when it was-
2019 and 2020.
Yeah, 19 and 20. It
And
aired
They did
July
start
4th.
18, I guess, even a little bit.
so it's from 18 to 20.
And I would
Did they
say
give you that
the,
rock and roll intro when you went up there?
the audio, and I had to ask JD, is Fat Mike.
Right
No
now, we're
effects.
moving from a system
that.
where 1% dominates all the economic value to a system where we can all have equal participation and we can live and benefit from the American dream by inventing new systems that act in our best interest.
That's the idea.
I can see the numbers and I can see what's going on, and it sometimes just doesn't seem real.
That's what we're focused on, not
Wait, what year was this
necessarily
recorded?
the dream
What's that?
aspect or the
year was
storytelling
this part
aspect of
recorded?
actually bringing this technology to a reality.
It sounds like
Probably
2018 optimism.
Yeah, probably 2019.
We're going to see
maybe 2018.
decentralization of power, and then the largest wealth transfer in human history. And I believe we're seeing a revolution of open source money.
Because they did a lot of interviews.
Many of the world's greatest challenges will be solved with new systems powered by blockchain and cryptocurrency,
No surprise
and
to
the
see
sky
you
is the
going,
limit.
"There's a cool guy."
America should be at the forefront
I will tell
of the
you,
blockchain and cryptocurrency revolution.
my
There are
original
literally
vision
trillions of dollars
was
of
to-
economic
was to
growth at
make
stake. It's all at stake right now.
A humorous mockumentary type thing where we could basically ingrain it into all the projects we're building out. But they made our own documentary, so
That would be cool too, to like just to watch the startup spin-offs and stuff.
yeah.
Could still do
How
that.
did you guys get the title?
I
That was
think they
cool.
ran it through a lot of testing, right? I don't know because
I was born in America.
I wanted to call it.
I grew up in
Impact
Dodge City, Kansas.
Super Happy Dragon.
I
Lucky
love this
is what I
country.
wanted to call it.
I'll die in this country.
Okay.
I was originally doing work at
And I cringe
Dodge
whenever I
City,
say it,
Kansas.
and
so-
I had a team that
gonna
I
try
kind
to-
of pulled out slowly.
Yeah, they're gonna kill me.
Either guys that
That's
were
what's for
just
sure.
fed up with the
Speaking of dying in
federal
this country.
contracting, or
But that's
sometimes
where
they
you
just get
have to go
bored,
public
and
to
yet
stay safe.
They were amazing engineers. We built things, we did things, but typically you would have somebody come in
Speak up.
who was on one of the contracts and say,
Yep.
they need this. We delivered something with immediate ROI, which again, in government, it's pretty rare, right? Where it was basically the entire cost of all of our development, the entire cost of our lab, all of our time, all of the hardware, everything involved came in at less than what they were paying for an annual maintenance cost on the hardware they had. I mean, everything was a massive upgrade. One of those things came in, and originally it was because of the traceability, but also just because it was really interesting, was Bitcoin. So I read the Satoshi white paper and realized that it was going to change the way that the world understands value. All of these things are known, right? All of these things is basically taking a whole bunch of really interesting components and making a complete system, a very holistic system, which makes it possible to transfer scarce virtual items, right? Which were Bitcoin. We were having a lot of trouble with the contracts and how do we pay them and how do we make it so that it's, with dollars if they're not in the US and all these other things. How do we clean that up? And so that was kind of the first thing I was looking at with it. It's like, oh, maybe we could, do something where we're paying them in cryptocurrency, right? I started to get tired of
we got Reggie coming in
that went on, federal contracting, and there were other things I wanted to build.
Adorable.
She's older now. I've only seen this all once,
Same.
So
I started 7 different companies. I had a brilliant idea that all of you use today, called Voice of IP. So I made a lot of money.
Kenny Bozak.
I'm looking at my kids, I look at my 6 kids, and I'm like, they don't have that opportunity. The American dream is not a life for them as it was for me. And the reason for that is that we're all stuck in that pyramid. We're all stuck in a system that is designed to deliver for the 1% and not for the 99%, right? Why are we moving from a system where 1% dominates all the economic value to a system where we can all have equal participation and we can live and benefit from the American dream? The internet created this decentralization and created the ability for people to exchange information, but we did not solve the how do we transfer money or how do we control money. Satoshi really created this right after the 2008 economic collapse.
First thing that you have to understand is today, almost all the money in the world is software. To understand open source money,
That is kind of a
you need to understand the
mind
ethos
exploder
of
if you're
open
not
source
used to thinking of it that way.
software. The thing that is
Thinking of
astonishing
like,
about
it's already
what
just
is used by
software,
Satoshi
money
Nakamoto's
itself.
blockchain.
It's
You can
become that.
send to any single
Right, it's
transaction,
a digital
billions
paper
of
and-
transactions.
They even track the stuff that
And
they
you
have to
can
make
be
out of
sure
linen and the stuff
That's
for
exactly what
in
happened. To
computers
me, you
too.
can't
So it's
separate
technically
the
all
ethos
digital, just
of
doubled in some
Bitcoin
cases.
and open source money
Or more than
from
double.
open source software.
So what Satoshi did is solve the double spend problem. But if I sent you $20 and I still have
Oh,
the
Joe,
original,
you're muted.
that is a problem. And that problem, computer
That,
science has not
sorry,
been able
the
to
other bit
solve
of it
for-
is
for
the
over 50 years.
decentralization,
Voice over IP came and created a new set of rails
isn't
running on
necessarily just about
TCP/IP and
the
UDP
decentralization. It's
to
about the fact
replace
that
the phone companies. The same thing is happening now.
whatever that
with the
info is,
financial
whether it's
system,
money or
because these
something
guys are
else,
sucking
that
all
people
the profit out of the
can
system,
independently
right? The
prove it.
1%,
They
they're
don't
not
have
leaving
to.
anything to the average
They
American.
don't have to
We've
assume
arrived
that
at a
somebody who
period in
knows
history
better
called
than them
peak
and tell them that it's
centralization,
okay.
which is the
So
maximum
it's just
amount
an
of
empowering thing.
centralized power.
And
So
at its
I'm going to
core,
create
right,
a new
it's
system, and I'm
force
going to allow
resistance,
people to basically
ultimately.
migrate from the old system where the
Because
banks and the
everything
financial
at the base of it,
institutions
right?
control
Technically, you
money
could do
into a
all this
system
with
that is
paper
equal access to
if you
everybody. The
had a
blockchain
system that
is a
wasn't
new
meant
set
to
of rails
interfere
that allows people
and try to
transact
monopolize.
with each other without a
But
total
Well, somebody
The
told me
irony-
recently that
prevent
free
monopoly
free people don't ask for
party
permission.
That's
And so
right.
this is money that you don't have to ask for
looks at
permission
this
to
as
use.
an enemy.
You know
Right.
what?
I've always thought it
The
was
way
about
people
permission
think now,
Cryptocurrency is something
It's-
that
it's-
competes with the US dollar.
it
competes
is
with
interesting
their
to me because
franchise.
when
Reminds
I
me of the
explain
phone
it to people and I
companies,
say, look,
because I remember when
it's
AT&T thought
it's
that
a
they were
system
giving
that lets
God's
you
right to let everybody
design
talk to each other and charge them
well, it's a
$3
behavior
minute,
system,
you know,
but
like-
it's a
and now
way
we're doing it for free on WhatsApp
to
and
essentially
Skype.
compel
Now,
your
with
users,
open
your
source
customers,
money,
your
including
vendors, your
Bitcoin,
employees
we're going to see
to do something.
decentralization
But the beauty
of
with it isn't
power.
just that, oh, it's
Then
compelling them to
the
do it.
largest
It is,
wealth transfer
um,
in human history. This
it has
system
this
is a
this
system
element of
decentralized
liberty
financial
attached
infrastructure
They don't have to.
produces
They have
having
the
a great
choice,
opportunity
and this
for
is though.
transformation.
Like say,
of
we've
wealth
even implemented
inequality
it. I gave
and
an example
transformation
earlier today in
of
the
our
call,
presently centralized
where
financial
at Disney we
infrastructure.
applied it
And
to
I
some
believe
engineering
we're
systems.
seeing a
Very boring
revolution
stuff, right?
of
These
open
engineering
source
systems, they just
money.
wanted
So when we talk about
transparency
centralization
of
versus
deliverables from other teams.
decentralization,
And what we
and
ended
when
up doing
I
is putting that
always
in
use
place,
this phrase,
but
all roads
allowing
lead
them
to
to cut out all the
decentralization.
costs.
Why
That
do all roads lead
they
to
didn't have to
decentralization?
worry
Because you
if
cannot take 7.5
their boss
billion
liked
people
Jim better than them.
and
If
take
they
away the
do
dream
X,
from
they're
them
going
and
to
think
get
that nothing
Y,
is
and
gonna
that's
happen.
so
Okay? What's going to
profound.
happen is going to be a major
in
revolution.
the
This
corporate
time
world,
the
that
revolution
it's
is
very
about
obvious
all
when
the
you
money
see
in
it
the
that
world.
people all of a sudden
So this-
start to perform.
It's
Right?
a war.
So,
It's a war.
anyway.
This is not a
I
little
mean, people are willing to
skirmish. This is a
even
war
do
between
duplicative work and throw away, have risk it,
and
be thrown away,
decentralization.
if they get to be the ones who initiate it.
I like the way he put that. This is a war between decentralization and centralization. Like those are the stakes.
Yeah.
It's weird what
Well,
war has become. As a veteran who was active duty for 9 years, it's just interesting to see
My name is
the
Shirley
evolution
Brooks,
of what
and I am
war
the Chief
looks
Human
like
Resources Officer
in
at
general.
Dragon Chain.
You know, it's kind of just
So
online
Joe and I have been
now.
married
On
You
the
think they'll do
internet.
reenactments someday?
Almost 20 years. Ever since we were
Reenactments?
married, he's been doing side projects
Of the
and
cyber wars?
creating
Yeah.
things out on my own.
I don't know.
I'm 18. I'm
Yeah,
a student
interesting
at
thought.
KU, and I keep running into Joe. I really was a little scared. I was like, I don't know who this guy is, but he's got really long hair and he's in a heavy metal band.
There we
We're
go.
mostly a local band. We got to play with.
I forgot all this was in there.
A lot of bigger bands coming through.
This was
We
cool.
were in
Fun
Kansas
fact,
City,
Joe promoted a
everybody
show I
passes
played at
through on
once.
I-70,
One of my
so
bands.
it
We
was
didn't
fun.
even know it
Rhythm
until
and software is not
one day on
really
World
paid
Blockchain
attention to.
Roundtable.
People
We're like,
really
wait a
ignore
minute,
that as a
are you sure? And
concept,
then you mentioned the back room. Like,
and
okay.
when it's
hilarious.
running live, there's an
Small
obvious
world.
difference. When you're writing music, it is somewhat similar to writing software. I mean, with music, there is some science to it, of course, but it's mostly art. Whereas with software,
Dude,
there's
I jive with
some
this
art
so
to it, but
much
it's
when I
mostly
heard this the
science.
first time.
Software
Like, this
is
is
a
like-
lot closer to art.
You're speaking to
It's
my
almost
beliefs about
like
software.
an art which requires perfection.
I have
where
some
you
pretty-
have to
pretty
get it
deep thoughts
perfect
on,
for it to function.
rhythm
Doesn't
applied to
yet.
software.
There's a lot of latitude
And,
with where that
every other element. But
perfect
yeah.
line
It absolutely
is.
has a
So,
rhythm.
We dated for about 3 months, and then June 7th, we
Check this out,
eloped
Joe.
and got married, and
Yeah.
we've been together for almost 20 years. Everybody thought we were crazy, but
With a
here
B.
we are.
Disney
awesome.
calls.
Heck
At
yeah.
first I'm like, I mean, I have to admit, I'm not a Disney person, right? So I'm.
Tim Miller's
never
the
have
Time
been
Lord.
Or anything else, right? But I knew, coming in as an architect, there are so many things they could use with this tech, right? And because they have banking, they have ticketing, they have legal, obvious legal. They have their own worlds where they could actually use currency if they wanted.
No, it's just his passion, and he's my husband, and my soulmate. So
I started talking to him.
The
I took
OG
it,
Walt Disney
and
probably would have been
we
all
moved
about
up
it,
here.
man. He would
and
put it
we're
in
taking
Epcot.
each other's hands,
Yeah,
and we're
if
at
you
the
look
bridge,
at
and we just jump, because
The
to
quotes
me
that
it's
they
like,
would
well,
post
let's
on
see where this
from
adventure
Walt
can
Disney,
take us. We
they
decided
fit
that,
so
hey,
perfectly everything we're trying to do.
let's uproot the family
And
and move
generally they don't
across
follow
the country to
more
Seattle.
because they're too hard
Right.
to follow.
Well,
You know?
because they
Inside of
used
Disney,
to have
I worked
virtue,
with
but
a
they've
small
devolved
group
it
of
into
engineers
signaling.
to
Yeah.
build
Well, it's hard, right?
a
That's
new
why we do it. That's the whole
blockhouse.
quote. That's the whole intro we
Eileen,
played, right? Not
reached
because
out
it's easy,
to, basically
but
the whole
because it is
Seattle
hard.
Team, asking if anybody wanted to talk about Bitcoin.
Yep.
I'm Eileen Quinnen,
True.
and I'm the
I
president
think that's
of
where
the
like
Dragon
so
Chain
many
Foundation. I'm
businesses
also
or
VP of
companies
Strategic
have been
Partnerships
like
for Dragon Chain Inc. I
people
started
get
Grit,
into it,
mainly in
even
New Orleans.
churches,
I
people
came
get
to
into it
Seattle
and
about
they like
13 years
for
ago
the
after Hurricane
what they're
Katrina.
told it's
So I'm a
about,
refugee
and then they
from,
get
that storm.
you know, the
Started reading
machine
about Bitcoin and
involved.
blockchain, I was like super interested.
and
So
people get
during the
disillusioned
time I
and,
was at
and
Disney,
their
I was
soul
always trying to
gets
find
sucked
people
out
who
of
were also
it, you
interested
know.
in talking about that sort of thing, and I sent out
Feels like
an
it's a
email
bureaucracy
to,
thing or
like,
something.
they used to call
Like,
it the
I
official
was really
business.
shocked
So
actually that
send an email saying, hey,
in
anybody here
Fura, I wasn't
interested
surprised
in
at
talking about
Alchemy,
Bitcoin,
but I was
blockchain,
really super
cryptocurrency,
surprised
let's
in
all get
Fura
together
with
and
the
just,
tornado cash
have
thing.
lunches.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah. So
just kind of
went
blew
and
me
talked to
away.
her and found out what she was already
Guns
trying
ahead
to
or
work on, trying to put
something
things
else?
together.
I don't know.
Joe
But
reached back out and was like,
you
hey,
think about what would
I'm
cause,
totally
you know,
interested in this, let's talk about it.
crazy.
And
snuggling up to
he and
regulators
I
in
and about 4 or
advance is
5
a
other
good way to
people
make
just
friends.
kind of hung out talking about these things.
I started working with her.
Isn't that kind of like selling your soul to the devil?
volunteer
Yep.
team
No,
internally and just started.
I was being
building
very
stuff.
facetious.
About a year and a half into
I
Disney,
figured.
he was frustrated with the politics and just being at a corporation.
This my
where
husband
there's so many
related so
layers,
much to this.
And if you want to change something,
He
it
got
takes
fired from
months.
his,
You've got to convince so many
job
people,
during
people that
COVID
don't know
for
what
not
they're doing, or people who
complying.
think they know
Yeah.
what they're doing, but really don't.
Wow.
Because they've been in that position
market
for a long,
purge.
long time, and therefore they have seniority.
Yeah,
He
that's
came home
horrible.
and he said, Shirley, I can't keep doing this. And I was like, well, what do you mean? And he said, I can't work for other people. I'm going to die.
It's a real thing sometimes.
It is a real thing.
It's a-
Like, how can you go to work every day and lie to yourself and go against
We
your
had the
core
open source
values?
out there. We had the Dragon
That's
Chain
like the one
Foundation
thing
that
that
handled it.
every company
It's an open
that
source
starts
project, so
already that
there was
you
no
can look at
funding.
won't let you do.
We had some
Yeah, like, you're not gonna
volunteers.
get
We had
into the
people that
vision.
did
Yep.
small work, but it's a new tech. It's complex. It's not something
You're
you
a
can get
vision
hundreds of
person,
people
then,
immediately to come in and work
got
on.
one recourse,
And because
right?
we were doing things very different
unless you
than,
count
like, say,
getting a
Ethereum
license for
or
grad
Bitcoin.
as
So we just
recourse.
made a commitment to that open source project. And again, this is sort of a common thing in the open source world. So like Linux Foundation, for example. And it just helps to kind of put a container around the open source and also the commitment of the team to maintain that open source. And the reasons why you want to do it is that we wanted to move blockchain technology forward.
Once we formed Dragon Chain outside of Disney, we looked for the best path to raise capital. We obviously explored traditional venture capital and had some really good interest and some offers, but it didn't quite fit, it didn't quite feel right. We chose a more decentralized path by selling our software licenses, our Dragons. We're about to launch Dragon Chain ICO, and we know that we have to expect anything.
And it was just cool to
Even
be
back then,
introduced
it
to
was
this
you were selling
new
the software
technology.
license.
I was always familiar with what
Yeah, I mean, that's
Bitcoin
why,
can
I mean,
do,
we
but then to start getting exposed
literally
in terms
wrote
of
up the model,
taking what that
had
technology
it
can
checked
do and putting into smart contracts,
call the
etc. It was
gatekeepers,
just
right?
an excitement to be
saying,
at the
hey,
forefront of something so innovative.
does this work? Is
And
there,
so for
are there
our
any issues
ICO,
with this, right? They went through,
Those were good
as
lessons
IP
learned and the
lawyers,
different
looked at
ways in
it,
which they
everything
managed
panned out. I was like, no, this is a
Ether
good
and
licensing
Bitcoin
thing.
coming
They
in
make
and do the
suggestions,
disbursement of the
other
Dragons.
stuff.
It took a lot
And,
of coding. It took a lot of
then they sent it to their securities
expertise, and
lawyers.
it went
Whole
incredibly
analysis.
well.
The graph is
Gave
pretty
us,
much in a one-way
gave us
direction.
an opinion.
It's up
gave us
1,000% this year alone.
Bitcoin is the
guidance.
widest, most important
And
deployment of cryptography to individuals in the history of the world.
I think maybe I'm just
applied for a
I didn't
provisional
put a
patent
penny in
on the
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin and
kind of establish it,
you know,
as
the
best we
underlying
could in the
technology is here to
traditional
stay, so it's not going anywhere.
Hit a new record high of $20,000
we were later granted that
per
patent.
coin.
Crypto
Right?
universe coming
Yes.
back
So
with a
we
vengeance
can
this month.
point
Check
to
out some
the
of the
US
biggest coins in the
government
space
having accepted
surging. Ripple up 50%,
documented,
Ethereum and Bitcoin Cash up
and then
more than
later granting,
40%,
this is-
and Litecoin
this
and
is
Bitcoin
novel.
are up around 20%.
Okay.
This as the total crypto market cap
and yet,
hits a 4-week high, now back
a
above
different,
$350
division
billion.
with,
Your own crypto.
Quick
It's
question to
unbelievable.
everyone in
Joe
chat.
brought his
I
vision
know we're talking over
to
this a lot of this.
Sometimes
So
I don't believe it myself.
I don't know. Quick
Just
poll in
being in
chat
that
if you would rather
blockchain technology
pause it every now and then
space.
to
It's
interject commentary and
new
stuff, and then start it. We can do
It
that.
exceeded my wildest
So
dreams.
just let us know.
And that feels funny. You know, I mean, it's kind of like Wile E.
Oh, we have
Coyote, you know,
Satoshi
you're
Shon
like,
joining
I'm gonna
too.
run,
Awesome.
And then you're like, oh wow, I went further
Let us
than
know
I
when you're ready, dude.
knew
We'll
how
pull
to
you
go.
up.
We're probably going to double in size in the next month. It's crazy. We've outgrown like 3 offices already.
Not only want to secure my future, I want, now we have other people working for us, so I want to secure their future. I don't want to let them down. It's exciting, and at the same time, it's terrifying.
There was a lot of relief,
Somebody said,
even
"Good
on
idea."
the rest of the team, that that was accomplished. It was
Positive
successful, and it was
Okay, we'll do that.
Now this is real, so we have to deliver, and that's a big deal. There's a lot of pressure.
So from here out,
You know,
we'll
our
pause to
JoJo, our
interject.
logo
Just
is
throw your
really
finger up and
popular.
I'll be like,
Merch is a
pause.
product, right, that we can do. And so more people just love this character, and I see that evolving.
Feels in my gut like it's all meant to be.
Pause when Sean jumps in.
Cryptocurrencies are a crock.
We've made it
Leave it
clear
on
what the
screen.
law is.
Let me
If
punish
you are
Sherman.
promoting securities,
you're taking on securities law liability.
I am understanding you to say it is a violation of the law.
Yes.
So should I take today as you're sounding a warning bell for people? Maybe they better pay a little closer attention to the law, or the SEC is going to pay closer attention to them?
Yeah. Governments are going to crush it one day.
Why is the narrative around Bitcoin is still really hard to grasp?
Who cares about Bitcoin?
You know, Bitcoin is worth zero.
But fear, uncertainty, and doubt.
In terms of cryptocurrencies,
You know, it was Oliver that pissed me off.
generally, I can say almost with certainty that they will come to a bad ending.
Hello. Oh, what's wrong? What's wrong?
Today, February 2nd, we received an official notice from the SEC that Dragon.
All right, I'm going to pause it here for a second because that was a pivotal point anyway. So I should have thought about this before, but all the interjecting and talking over the video and stuff, that's pretty distracting. So we'll pause it every now and then and interject. What I was saying a minute ago, what Joe was trying to say was like, just like you saw right here, like there's literally documentation all the way back to the US government accepting and granting a patent for a novel idea, which was using this as a license and selling it as a license. And it was never anything other than that. So it's interesting to see, different branches disagree, I guess, on that.
Well, and we could just to interject there to give examples of other businesses using licenses for software that are accepted in other industries without, I don't even know what word to use, sacrifice, attack, whatever. Microsoft, every year you update your, your Microsoft Word and your whatever.
Yeah, software
licensing.
licensing.
That is not a new thing.
And they do pre-sales. They say, game companies pre-sell the game before they release it, which, you can't do that in crypto.
Right.
And they are cryptographic based licenses. So
they have private keys. Literally, you have a CD key, and it's like you can sell that again if you want. Once you're done with it, GameStop, for example, there's a business on reselling used games.
Amazon literally has a game marketplace where you can resell the games, right? So I could buy a game that was used at lower than normal price, knowing that a lot of people will, especially think about it in the old days, if it's a CD or something like this, DVD, that I could sell it for more later because, you can't, I've bought games for the kids on, like DS games or something that are more than they should have been because there aren't any available, right?
No, if I'd have been bullish in 1996 on Chrono Trigger for SNES, I'd be rich right now. I could have loaded up on those.
Yep.
But Sean, can you hear us? I wanted to bring you up while we were still paused here. You're not going to be on video, but let's make sure your audio works and then we'll continue on.
Yeah, I can hear you all real well.
All right, fantastic.
That's a whole market that my kids do because they're into like they're on Twitch and all that. That's like they literally certain games they buy two or three of, and they play one, they put one up, and then they have one to sell.
I used to have a buddy in Dodge City that would go to Wichita and go to one of the go to a pawn shop or something, buy some crappy cassettes, take them he would always just look to make sure they're in decent shape. He would take them to like the Camelot Music or pick your chain music store and exchange them for shrink wrapped of the same because they wouldn't give him money. Because he didn't have a receipt. Then he'd take the shrink wrapped one to the other Camelot across town and then get his money, and that's how he would pay for gas money to get across Kansas over and over again. It was hilarious.
Sounds like an entrepreneur to me.
Yes, but I would say that those cassettes would have been securities potentially because.
Well, if people were buying them to invest in his future trip.
Well, no, apparently if anybody
apparently Pokemon cards are now securities then.
Yes.
Because there's a kid sitting at the table behind us at lunch the other day that was explaining to his boss before his shift that he buys this box of Pokemon cards from the gas station across the street and opens them because if he gets this one, then he can go buy 5 more boxes for more. Seriously, this is a real
It's so
tool.
fun.
Oh,
And I
it's
think they're
literally-
marketed
for
by
sure.
a
Baseball
central-
cards, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
This hits exactly the point I wanted to make.
So
which is
why are
like-
they
like
picking winners and losers? Like who
there's the
chooses?
question.
anything the SEC wants to call a security, they can shape into that test. Let's say, all right, this wasn't trying to fit the tool to the thing. This was literally just looking for the nearest to the shape of the right jackboot so they could stamp down on it. Like they needed something to fight back against it. Otherwise, it was
It's
just
more
gonna
of
fly.
looking at who
Right.
is a threat to them, and then looking for the tool to attack that person.
I think
because
the
I
only
didn't
reason-
see them standing on every corner of every lemonade stand, going after every child who mixed lemonade,
Mhm.
sugar, or lemon sugar and water.
But
now
they
that's
have-
worth more.
Exactly.
They
Aren't
have
your
started to
revenue?
do that.
Isn't your
They have started
revenue
to do
like
that.
just a security in your future stock, future inventory? Like
It is if it goes up. It's not if if Biden's in charge.
Yeah.
There's stories about especially in like New York, Los Angeles, where the government has shut down kids' lemonade stands, and I think it's part of this bigger picture that everybody was talking about, but nobody actually came out and said that whenever you start having the conversation with the normies, they realize what money is. Money is cassette tapes. Money is
Right.
Pokemon cards. And then they can see that literally Pokemon cards and paper money have nothing really that different, except that the Pokemon cards are limited, and they're harder to get.
And you probably
US
trust the
dollar
maker
cards.
of them more.
I think the SEC got handed this
Of the
because
Pokemon
it was their
cards,
job to
yeah.
crush. It was their job to crush Kickstarter, and they had just gotten done crushing Kickstarter, and they were like, "Hey, you guys did a pretty good job beating down this example of regular people pooling their capital to do something. Why don't we send you after this one?" To me, this is just like another example of people realizing the power of pooling capital and them wanting to guard that one thing that they have, like a special investors club for.
Yeah, it's almost as if it's seen as dangerous or something, right? So on that note, let's get on with it. The documentary just took a turn with the slap from the SEC, which is what we were just talking about. So let's see what we've got.
Chain is under investigation.
That was a commercial break from the original.
Danger music.
Yes.
That makes sense. And we're back.
Oh, this is a drone
It's really
outside
hard.
of the office in Bellevue there.
So
Sorry for all the docudrama, real
losing sleep, stomach always upset.
It was a dramatic situation.
Stressed out like crazy.
Yeah.
What it amounts to is you have these lawyers that are controlling the technology, which is not what you want at all, because you're going to put these monsters, things that shouldn't be, that are more complex or built in ways that are not
That's how you
efficient
kill
or
people.
not
That's right.
appropriate, because the lawyers
Real
think that this
I
is
think
what the
it's fair
regulators
to
want,
show
even though
the
they're not
cost,
saying it.
and I'm
Whenever
glad
you
they
do anything
shared
like that, where you have a
Eileen's
bureaucratic
story.
control over
Was it Eileen?
engineering.
Yeah.
That's Chernobyl. That's how Chernobyl happened. You look at the Challenger disaster. So it feels like we're
That happened
supposed
on
to
my
fight this
birthday.
battle with the SEC.
Wow.
And they're coming after us. We didn't do anything wrong. Every interpretation I see of the actual law, we didn't break any of those things.
I mean, there's not a whole lot you can do. The lawyers ask you questions, you answer as honestly as you possibly can, and give them all the information that they need, because really that's the best way to handle things. I really do feel that the SEC, this whole process and what they're doing and constantly questioning us is affecting his health. His mental health, his physical health. It's affecting his mood. It's affecting our marriage. I mean, it's affecting him as a dad too. He's trying to innovate, and because he's great at thinking of ways to use the blockchain technology and how it can better different parts
Well, they
of
slow-mode
the
that.
economy and different parts of different
that?
businesses, and
They slow-mode that
he's not able to
moonshot.
do that as freely because I feel like he's constantly answering questions from the lawyers.
It's okay
And
to
it's so
seem
difficult
human,
because
Joe.
the lawyers don't understand it either. The lawyers don't understand the technology. So then you have the lawyers talking to the SEC. So the lawyers don't understand the technology. They know the financial security aspect of it.
Connections to
But my
it that we
biggest
didn't know
fear
about
is the
before,
SEC
but
coming down and
guys
shutting
are
Dragon
amazing
Chain down.
with color.
And we're going to throw Joe in jail. It's my biggest fear.
Cameras.
It's not money.
I know that I probably differ with some folks here about their opinion about it. I personally think that it's not necessarily a bad thing that the industry as a whole is being looked at. I think it will actually help everybody, because the good ones will float to the top, right? And, I believe we're one of the good ones.
Yeah.
So I see it as a good thing.
Most of the good ones. Anyone biting
I
actual
always
value,
get
and
Wait,
didn't
I got a
walk
comment
away
here.
from it.
frustrated and angry
Okay.
at
Just pause
efficiencies.
before-
What do you got?
Okay, is it just me, or are the only people the SEC had any reason to possibly go after all the projects that just promoted vaporware that never built anything?
Yeah, they didn't go after any, and if we would have walked away, that's the other thing. If you started a crypto project at the same time and you walked away with the money, they wouldn't come after you, right? If you were involved around the periphery, like all of the, we know of several groups that they're good people, but that ran, if these are securities, they would be broker dealers. They would be doing the real issues where they would really go after them. Normally, they didn't go after them.
That's a great point.
Anybody who actually provided real utility, who actually delivered stuff that
And
didn't
is
pay them
still
off,
standing.
are the ones that they've come after. So
Oh, yeah.
it's,
Well, I mean,
it's very
and-
interesting.
Weird how they also coincide around like world-changing applications where you take a middleman out of something that they would prefer to have a middleman they can point a gun at.
Yeah.
To me,
Well,
it's
yeah.
uncanny.
Yeah.
I think that just
Whatever
kind
you
of
do,
makes
don't
it
make it
obvious
more
or makes what
efficient
they're trying to do
by
obvious.
cutting out fat.
I think it just kind of makes what they're trying to do obvious. If you're doing something that's not a threat to any of the status quo, we don't care.
At this point,
Oh,
yeah,
it's
Sean,
something
you're right.
real?
Yeah.
Well, hold on now.
Right, just walk away with the bag.
Well,
Don't make
like
a music video.
in
so
this
be good.
movie, I mean, Mashinsky is shown. Are they going after Mashinsky?
That's a good
Are they
question.
going
I have no
after
idea.
Do Kwon or whatever? Are they going
Yeah,
after?
I don't know.
Well, they are going after him, but
Well,
wasn't
somebody
he
is.
part
I
of
don't know
the
if the
Tornado Cash
SEC
team?
is.
When you one of the Tornado
Yeah.
Cash devs?
Well,
No,
a lot of
they-
these, I don't know which ones are like a lot of them aren't American companies either, but a lot of them are. And so among the American companies and startups, like I saw a dude on, it's like CNBC or something promoting like Elon Gate token.
Yeah.
They were
Yeah,
building
yeah.
a rocket ship and they were going to wheel it up to like the SpaceX gate. And that was the big thing. And they were telling people to put their grandma's money into it. The host of the show. And this is like the American CEO of an American crypto company. And they're fine. Apparently that's fine. So it is, like what Sean said and what Greg said, it's very obvious that like there's only certain people that are being gone after, and it's the people that are building really good shit that have an actual product that actually have implications. So yeah, the SEC's gatekeeping, as Jared says.
Yep.
All right, let's watch Joe drive a car.
When it's to this
They
level,
told me they liked to
it's bad.
interview people
I
driving.
can't
because
sleep as well.
You relax a
I
little
don't
bit
think I
and
fell asleep
or
around 3,
somehow
right?
focused on.
And for a
Something.
while, I was
Yeah.
losing a lot of
Right
weight,
now, it
which is a
feels
bad
like,
thing, but it's because my
feels like,
stomach is all messed up.
that
And now I've
dating show
been
from
eating too
the
much because I'm
MTV
stressed out.
popped up.
I end up wasting my
You remember
time
that?
dealing with this whole situation where I
Yeah,
should
because
be
Joe
able
says
to
Italians are from Italy.
be a little more strategic.
That would be
And I'm
hilarious.
able to because I'm able to separate myself, but it's hard.
Yeah.
So I mean, in the end, it's one of those
That would be
things. That's,
funny.
whatever doesn't kill you just makes you stronger.
True, right
but
there. Was,
I do wish I could just focus on the things I think I should be focusing on.
That was a big piece of it.
It's
I
just
think
hell,
they
right?
one of
So,
the pieces.
and all this is because
they have an
of
MO.
the SEC.
Reggie
Everything else
will tell you this
about this
too. They have
entire
an MO
job,
where they
everything
basically
that
get you on the hook,
everyone
and they
who's
drink
working
you
for this
when
company,
you have nothing
the
left,
actual
and
job,
then they
the
come
real
after you.
work is like a dream job.
One of the others.
So I've been
is
stressed with the
the
SEC
entire
stuff.
time that
So
they're training you, they're
I'm
distracting.
headed up to the hills, headed up into the hills
and they're then
to
distracting any potential
blow off
business
some
from
steam.
coming in and working. with you.
Sasquatch country.
Will you pause and repeat that? Hey, will you pause and repeat that? Because that is not just an SEC. I will tell you, I have a doctor that I interview on my channel, and that is the MO of big government. That's what the FDA does. They move you around and drain you financially until you can't fight back. And so, Joe, can you repeat what you just said?
Yeah, that's their big MO is to come after you, drain you of all funds they can, any way they can, and then come after you when you have nothing left. That's what they want. And all the while, I mean, I can tell you as a founder, the worst part of it wasn't even the amount of money that we spent, but it was the fact that they literally kept me from doing my job for quite a bit of the time. I mean, I had to work a lot more just to keep ahead of the what we were trying to build, right? And to do sales and everything else. And then we would constantly get a prospect that would say, "Oh, but don't you have something going on with the SEC?" or somebody said this, and it's really ridiculous that if they want to stall something, they really have a lot of tools to do it. And if you don't think it's not just some regulator with some axe to grind. I mean, it at some point it is too much of a coincidence that they're going after people that would be challenging all of the big current power holders. In whatever
They spent too much
industry.
money getting a hold of Reddit.
Yeah. So, all right.
Also, that does hurt number go up, which in turn hurts your community. I know you don't like to talk about that, you guys, but it does. It makes it hits your morale, hits your community. It hits your war chest when it comes to using your own token to pay bills and things. So it is it's a tried and true, like y'all were saying, method that they've used. I think that's a reason that like Wall Street bets and that kind of thing scared the crap so quickly out of everybody.
Oh yeah.
They were like, whoa.
Well, so like, we're usually the ones who knock the baby bird on the nest before we say we're helping. Like they usually kick the prices down.
But then shouldn't they be held accountable?
Why you need us?
It's billions. It's billions, if not trillions, of dollars that we're talking about here too. It's not small potatoes. They literally got all of the powers that be, all of the VCs that were interested in innovation were effectively vacated when those SEC letters went out. Anybody who had the power said, all right, I'm exiting. They knew what was coming, right? And that was the first big, long crash that we saw in crypto at the end of the big cycle that happened then, right after the token sales. So
So then they are
like how
affecting
every project on Kickstarter got crappy after they came in and it.
Yep.
Yeah, just like you said, Lisa, they're picking and choosing who is allowed to compete. And it's happened outside of crypto plenty as well. I mean, SpaceX had to sue to be allowed to compete.
Yep.
That kind of thing. So,
and they're still struggling with the FAA trying to get authority to launch their rocket. Well, gotta love them. The United Launch Alliance is throwing every chance they get to the. They're grabbing victory from the defeat from the jaws of victory every time they get a chance to launch, and that thing doesn't work yet.
You talking about SLS?
Yep.
Yeah, I hope it does. It's just it's unfortunate that Congress mandated engineering to use old space shuttle parts and engines for that, which in turn made sure that they had to use outdated fuel systems and types of fuel, which back to Joe's point, it's like
do with lobbying now.
Politicians making engineering decisions, right? Or regulators making engineering decisions.
It literally is dangerous. It leads to death. It's crazy. So
we have flat mirrors on the sides of our cars because there's a rule written.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Anyway.
All right.
I'm pretty certain it will be soon. Not just me. It'll be with the other interviews, so that'll be good.
Yeah.
It's all right, Joe. It's only you that feel that way.
There's also the point that they affected token holders in the secondary market with their behavior and their choices.
Our forefathers sacrificed to create a nation based upon
Something
liberty
would
and democracy.
get
Now
us
our
thrown
government is attacking its
in
own
prison.
citizens for developing technology based on the purest expression of those values. I'm a patriot. I've spent most of my career working with the government. I've always held America's best interest close to my heart. America should be at the forefront of the blockchain and cryptocurrency revolution. There are literally trillions of dollars of economic growth at stake. Many of the world's greatest challenges will be solved with new systems powered by blockchain and cryptocurrency, and the sky's the limit.
I think this was
for Dragon
Cougar
Chain, for the technology
Sure.
itself, and for the evolution of humanity. It's all at stake right now. This is America, and we will fight for
Yeah, I
our
was definitely
freedom
watching
to
this.
defend what we've built.
I think it was Cougar Mountain.
Commercial break.
And the bus would drop me off right there. That's one of the buses. And I'd walk through Lafayette Park to get to my office. It was such a surreal moment, especially as someone from a really small rural area of the country, to come and be in DC and walking into the White House every day. You go up to the gates, you type in a code, Secret Service lets you in, you show your ID and your pass, and then you go in. And it was just every day, it was like this crazy, surreal moment.
Are you guys keeping up on
So I'm Perry
the
Boring, the founder and president of the Chamber of Digital Commerce. And
Digital
so I'm a native
Chamber
Floridian. I was
and the Ripple
studying
case?
economics
They're
at
supposed
the
to be
University
putting
of
out something
Florida
tomorrow,
during
and
the
people
housing
are wondering if it's
collapse. So
going to
during
be
this
the
historic
same
financial
MO
crisis.
that they
So
handled with
that
Telegram, where
bubble,
it was
when
kind
it
of a
popped, impacted
passive,
my
we're
family,
not
my
gonna,
community, really
make
everyone I
any
knew.
waves, but we're going to
really
weigh
wanted
in
to
just so we
understand
can
what
record
was
the
going
ring.
on. So I started asking a lot of
Just gonna
questions,
glide
did a lot
in
of
and kick the can.
research, and the results and
there's a lot of
conclusions
talk.
that I
Now, we
came
used to be a
to
member,
were really
but we're not
upsetting
anymore.
and pretty scary.
It was
And
expensive.
so I decided to dedicate my
I think,
career to
frankly,
fighting for a better economic future
they're
for
probably being
my
too
generation and those that will come after me.
I think they
and
were
that
just
led
treating
me
it as a
to
lawyer would.
Bitcoin.
We have to.
So I
we
learned about
have to get along
Bitcoin
with
through
them,
my
and
work
we
on the
have to
Hill,
understand this,
researching
and they
different
aren't going to
types
be an
of
attack dog
economic
there.
issues. And from the
They're just
moment I
gonna-
was introduced to this
which ends up just
digital
helping
currency that was
one
not
in a very
controlled
long way,
by the
so,
government or
you know.
corporation or a group of people, I came to the conclusion
I
that
think
Bitcoin and blockchain is the most important technology I will ever see in my life, and I've got to work in this industry. So I worked on Capitol Hill for several years, so I got to really understand the legislative process. How do laws get passed through Congress and signed into law by the president? If you want to affect change, you've got to be able to drive the legislative process. I don't know if you've been paying attention to Congress recently, but it is not a rational being to have to deal with. The place we were in Washington
That's perfectly
in that
rational. You just
time
have to go
was
to
out of
K Street.
fear, anxiety, and skepticism.
Yeah.
People didn't understand it, they were scared of it, and they didn't believe in it. And so to me, as someone who really wanted to dedicate my career to this ecosystem, decided to start an organization, the Chamber of Digital Commerce, to be a nonprofit, to be headquartered in Washington, to work with the policy community, to teach them and give them
I tried to
resources
get Disney to join
about
too,
this
but
technology
they
that's of
didn't
high
give us the
integrity
budget
and
to
high
do it.
quality. The internet.
Yeah, I'm seeing a theme here
Is
about
this the
like
pack, the crypto pack?
I don't
no,
think you
it's
know
just,
more Joe than about that.
Yeah, they're a group that, what would you call it? It's kind of like a if you had an industry group, right? So it's a technology industry, it happens to be crypto, happens to be based in DC, intended, I think, to kind of help lobby or educate lawmakers.
Right.
And
That's what I was going to say is I'm seeing a trend of genuinely like well-meaning organizations and people saying, oh, obviously y'all don't understand what's going on here. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about why this is important for the nation. And you know me, I'm always coming from a national security mindset of like, I'm just like, no, we have to nail this. We have, as the USA, we have to do this, or we don't matter anymore, you know? And that's an absurd statement to say to some people, but like, it's freaking true. It's that level of importance.
Yep.
That's true.
All right. So we can go on.
I guess it's one of those things like was the classic the classic bromide, right? If you're not at the table, where are you? You are on the menu.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah. Yep. So
It was created out of government programming, multi-millions of dollars, decades of government funding and research to create the ARPANET, what became the internet. The very first consumer use case for the internet was email. So send a simple message online,
Let's pause there for
instantly,
a second.
peer-to-peer. We are
On the
To
emails.
throw in that she gives way too much credit to ARPANET for creating what became the internet. That was mostly done by private development after the government sold it off to private industry.
Yeah.
The majority of it was a private effort. The seed of it was developed in the government, but its part it was private effort.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for setting the record straight there, Greg.
I'm right. Damn it.
Dan Brown said it started at CERN. I read the Da Vinci Code. All right, let's go on.
10 years into blockchain. There's been no government funding behind it to help develop it and support it. And the first use case for blockchain has been Bitcoin. Send a payment, a currency, online, instantly, peer-to-peer, anywhere
easy
in the
Trump
world,
can do it.
free or for very low cost. We need better architecture to facilitate transactions. The
Hey,
internet
Melania
was built
has
to facilitate
NFTs. Don't mess
communications, to
around.
share
This is
information.
true.
It was
This is
not
true.
built to share anything of value, and that's what blockchain is. The U.S. is at a big disadvantage because we have a very fragmented regulatory approach. It's very different than a lot
I
of
see this
other
as an
areas of the
advantage.
world where they have streamlined regulatory structure.
Man.
The U.S. Department of the Treasury was the
The
first
problem
regulator
is
to
they're
issue
all
guidance
set up with no
around the blockchain and the
transparency,
crypto space.
with,
Their guidance said that convertible virtual currency like
Fast
Bitcoin
bureaucrats can do
would be
that.
regulated like a
processes.
currency.
So-
Later on, the IRS, they came out and said, well, convertible virtual currencies are going to be taxed as property. So one's currency,
Who's on
one's property.
first?
The CFTC said, well, actually, it can be a commodity, or it is a commodity. Then the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, is regulating and calling some of these tokens securities.
And
so
here's the
there are
thing.
just 4 examples of
What is
ways in
different
which
about this technology than the internet?
There
What
isn't
is
any
different?
difference.
Well, no,
There is
no,
no
no,
difference.
no. In their eyes, it's who it threatens. Who
Right.
does this technology threaten?
Central
Friends
It's the
banks.
only reason
Or the
it's being
ability to
treated
own it.
different.
Central banks.
Yeah,
That's like the
central
big
banks
Web3
blindsided by
thing,
that.
and
right? It's like,
VCs. And you think about it, central banks and VCs have a lot of close ties on the inside, under the table, at the cocktail parties with the SEC. And you know that VCs, and I've said this several times, VCs really were, they were losing their shirt in 2017. They thought they were cooked. And all of a sudden the SEC sends out thousands of letters to projects. Most of them exit, most of them leave, say, "Oh, I'm out of this," or totally shut down operations or whatever they were about to do.
yeah, and true coincidences are very rare. Very rare.
So that was the
Anyway.
ICO run up and crash.
The ICO run up made it very clear that when given the alternative between a very tight
Funding
system,
yourself or coming to us.
yeah, that it was the first time in history that anyone in the world could take part in what's coming. That anyone in the world could have said, "Oh, you know what? I think that metaverse idea is great. I'm going to try to buy some of these tokens."
You don't have to be a, what do they call them? Qualified investor or whatever.
Accredited investor.
Accredited
And what's
investor.
worse,
Already relatively wealthy is what
the-
you have to be.
Even telling the accredited investor getting in some offering is the rarity. Who do you have to be to get in on the ground floor of a Google or Facebook before they set off?
Right.
You have to be playing golf with the right guy, and you have to live in Northern California. You'd be one of a couple of hundred people to have that opportunity.
That's one of the
Whereas
things
this has anything to do with the fact that the next big thing is typically shaped by the people who are on the governing boards of these companies.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that they want to make sure those go a certain way. Just a guess.
Regulators are applying their jurisdiction. So how can something be a currency, a property, commodity, and a security all at one time? So if
And
you
also,
can
according to the
imagine if
Patent
you're a
Office,
business trying to
completely new
operate
and
in
novel.
this space, It's very hard to navigate.
Software
through
license.
those
I mean, she didn't mention that,
regulatory
right? So there's nobody that I know of that regulates software in the government.
How can a mortgage be?
But that's because it should be
a bundled
protected by
security and
So it was a
freedom
university
of
at the time,
speech.
a group of friends, and we started
Yeah,
to
it's just
really
words, right?
look into
Basically.
Bitcoin and,
Yeah.
and what could we do about
should
it.
be
And through
protected
that,
by
I
the
got
First
really
Amendment.
involved in the Toronto crypto community, and I got introduced to somebody named Anthony Diorio.
So it began for me in the summer of 2012. I heard about Bitcoin, bought Bitcoin the first day I heard about it. It was under $10 I got it for.
Cool
Started the
shades.
Toronto Bitcoin meetup group a couple weeks later because there was no communities in Toronto or in Canada. A few months in, I'd sold my first company in Bitcoin. And for all Bitcoin, I used that capital from the sale of the company and from what my investment was, and I funded Ethereum.
This is a great governance lesson with Ethereum. People were given a small amount of money, around 18 million. That's not a huge amount of money to go and try to change the world. And they did. They created the most successful open source project of all time.
So once Ethereum came onto the forefront,
Bold
and the
statement.
thought of not just Bitcoin, but
think Linux is probably
anything
that,
could be
but
made on
it's
the
okay.
blockchain, the possibilities
yeah.
are
I
endless.
would go with Linux.
All the developers started flooding in.
This is the modern day industrial revolution, or the modern day version of the internet, the new internet. But it's about 10 times
PGP
bigger
was
than the
pretty cool
internet.
too.
So
What
I
is-
think things are going from the age of information to the age of value, and that value is going to be much more important than information.
So just like everybody in the 1980s saw computers, and they say one day these computers are going to change the whole world. They're going to make the world amazing, but it still did take decades to get to the iPhone and take decades to get to the internet.
So if the U.S. really fights
Good
this
pause.
thing
Good
together-
question here. What do you guys think Steve Jobs would think of crypto if he was still alive?
I was just thinking, is Bitcoin not? And this is such an oversimplification, but isn't it just PGP applied to money? Kind of. You know,
Yeah,
I
with
mean,
an
it's
algorithm, there's a
private
couple
public
other
key
elements.
pairs.
Well, the thing about it is every piece of it was pre-existing. All the components were pre-existing. It was
Yeah,
just
blockchain was
beautiful
pre-existing. Private
arrangement.
public key pairs were pre-existing. Yeah.
And what
Yeah.
made PGP amazing and powerful and scary to the people in power, right, was that anybody could access it. It was a relatively simple tool to learn and use. Before, you had to have an NSA as an agency with a team of like pocket protector wielding mathematicians, right, in order to do anything like encryption. Like that was literally the thing that they kept under wraps that Alan Turing did during World War II that won the war, right?
Yeah.
This was like top secret shit, and all of a sudden anybody could download it. That had to have freaked the shit out of them. And in that respect, this is similar because anybody can get it.
That's what Snowden talks about that a lot in his book Permanent Record, where cryptography still works. It's one of the few things that still works for anybody. It's a pretty level playing field.
Right. Well, and no amount of violence will solve a math problem. So guns are pretty useless against cryptography.
You're going to be saying that's great. Yeah, keep fighting it there. We're gonna move it forward.
Part of the reason I think that we're seeing so much uncertainty in the U.S. is because of lobbyists. You've got big, powerful incumbents that are spending lots of money to influence regulators to kill the industry.
Canada and the United States have taken a relatively conservative approach to securities regulation, and that essentially has driven a lot of blockchain companies to leave.
Regulators have an important job to do, and that is to protect their people. Obviously, this wouldn't be a very good thing if it were a fight between the new and the old. It's everyone figuring out how to evolve together.
It would have been the end of 2014 that we started. So in December of 2014.
FBs, we can get like a real-time price stream of crypto prices.
Yeah, it'll be 8 years old in December. November, December, somewhere around there, I think.
This is great find, Barbara. Amazing. I mean, this is a great office. So yeah, we've got lots of different funds and
This guy
money
cracks me up.
things.
He's so happy.
I'm looking forward to this.
He's just happy
That's
to be
right.
here.
I forgot about
I'm
this.
jealous,
I was an
honestly.
interior decorator in another life. Where do you live now? So I've got a house up the hill in Pachero called the Crypto Castle.
Dude's got a
It's
crypto
great.
castle, rides a skateboard.
It's great.
He's an interior designer in another life.
Welcome to
Happy go
Crypto
lucky.
Castle #1 now. Number 2 coming soon. This is my magazine that we hand out and evangelize with, distributed, a 108-page primer on blockchain technology. This is Why Bitcoin, all about the crypto. This turns into a battle station for startup ideation. In fact, this is where Comma AI was founded, the self-driving car startup founded by the famous hacker GeoHot. He slept in the closet over here. Famous folks in crypto.
You know GeoHot? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I wonder what closet he's sleeping in today. The guy was notoriously lo-fi.
Yeah. I always love following that guy. He got he was like always jailbreaking iPhones and PlayStations and stuff, and then he ended up getting hired and got a sign-on bonus of my favorite car, Nissan Z car. I think it was like a 350 or 370.
Yeah, dude, that was your favorite car too?
Yeah, totally.
I was obsessed with
From
those for a while.
Vitalik Buterin to Bram Cohen have stayed in this room. This is Barbara, my co-founder. Gordon, he runs most of our operation. My little protege, he's like 16, has an AI fintech company out of Cleveland. This is Oris, just dropped out of Northwestern, just turned 20 yesterday. This is Amart, one of our advisors for Awesome Ventures. I tried activism. I've been at Occupy Wall Street and Zuccotti Park. I knew the financial system was broken. Now I knew the political system was broken. And I had this period of cognitive dissonance where I really didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. But
there was a pause.
Shortly after falling out of love with politics, I transferred to the University of Michigan and just happened to move in with
cognitive dissonance. Who has experienced that, and has this industry been an answer to it? I would say,
I think it's such a huge thing is that you see a bunch of these people who really, and this is before, it was like a dropout movement. It's where kind of the brightest dropped out of that legacy system all over the place because they saw that every corruption had the cancer of corruption had moved into everywhere. Mm-hmm. It started in one place and it had moved throughout everything, and everybody kind of dropped out and they're like, hey, we're going to start our own thing. We're gonna he's 19, he just dropped out of Northwestern, and now he's actually going to do something with his life to benefit other people.
Right. You get people saying just realizing for themselves. It's like, I can do this without you if I want to.
Yeah. I think and something that you just said, Dave, that about Snowden, that it's still you used the word level playing field.
Yeah.
And I heard in my head, the former vice president saying, you can't fight the government. If don't worry about your AR-15s. Don't worry about that. You can't fight the government. You need an F-15. And when you're talking about like encryption and blockchain, it really does level the playing field.
Right. Yeah. Right. Civilians and however much money and kinetic energy that the government wants to throw at it, cryptography still works, and you can still defend yourself with cryptography no matter what is thrown at it.
Yep.
So it's relevant.
Young Bitcoin enthusiast. I was cynical and quite skeptical, but I didn't really have anything better to look to. And as someone that had seen that, you couldn't fix our current financial system, you couldn't fix our current political system, as much as I came from a very kind of liberal Marxist upbringing, I saw the potential in Bitcoin to be this radically inclusive, democratized financial system that anybody could participate in, that was totally global. This is where Augur was founded. This is where my fund was founded. Casper, the sharding system for Ethereum, was named here. It's really just this ideation station. People come, live, build, and grow together. It's really remarkable what it's become over the past half decade or so. It's been absolutely amazing to see how it's something like 6 or 7 millionaires have been minted while living here. Young people under my mentorship, you could probably add another half dozen. I mean, it's wild.
I'm Kingsley. I run 2 VC funds. Chain Fund Capital, which is a blockchain fund, and Science Fiction Ventures. I was an early investor in Bitcoin. I first invested in 2013, and I was really fascinated at the way you could decentralize money. Over time, I started investing in more early-stage blockchain companies, and over time, I amassed a portfolio of about 50 investments. Majority of them actually based in San Francisco, so I ended up moving from London to San Francisco to be closer to the companies I was investing in. After initial investment of around $34,000, I've grown it to a portfolio of around $10 million. I do feel much happier. I'm part of a better community. Having worked previously in investment banking, I've seen like how inefficient existing financial infrastructure can be. So I'm really interested in how a decentralized form of finance can be, can power the next 1,000 years of financial payments on the planet.
I really loved Bitcoin. It was this tool to empower potentially billions of people and have financial sovereignty in this growingly Orwellian world. It's really something special.
That was a cool part. The Crypto Castle. That guy loves alliteration. What was the other one? The Ideation Station and the Crypto Castle.
Yes.
I just love how happy he was. I thought he was great.
You just needed a zany hat. You could do like the Dr. Seuss of crypto.
Just the Wyoming part?
Yep.
You know, that's a tree. They did, they did like all these tests on it, and it has roots. And yeah, they've done. Yes, no, it's true. It's a tree.
That would be
Petrified
awesome.
tree.
I don't know if that's. I don't know
It's
anything
true.
about. Well, I don't know anything about it, so I can't just
I
say.
know you're
okay.
gonna doubt.
We just went on the trip down here. We just went by and
it's just about putting a tag
saw
on
it.
something and saying, look what we did. Well, with blockchain technology, we can prove the source of any one of these products, from tomatoes to cattle to chickens. We can prove that source, and we can prove it on a plate. And
prove it on a plate.
I really think that's where this technology can be beneficial.
Lisa, I'm not saying it's not a
the
tree.
most important.
It's just surprising to me. That's all.
Last year, maybe bigger than internet.
For the first time in 6,000 years, now we have a better way of doing it. It's a pretty crazy moment in human history.
In America, this is potentially a gigantic change for the better in terms of all the things that are possible with blockchain and all of the value that can be created.
Realistically, blockchain is ours. It is. It was invented here. So I want innovation to happen right here. If you look at Congress right now, they're not doing
The guy is
anything,
really tall.
right? They're
by the
not
way.
trying
We're
to
not
look
in
at this
person. Really
ICO
tall.
situation and trying to clean up regulation. We've got companies fleeing the United States, U.S. citizens that are taking their companies to Malta because the federal government has done nothing, and there's so much
ruined Malta
uncertainty in
already.
regards to what should happen.
Yeah, that's
what
the
kind
funny
of
thing
regulations
too.
are in place.
They're not leaving because the government isn't giving them something. They're leaving because the government's
Government doesn't get
making
the
it.
fuck out of the. Excuse me.
I joke
Have
about
gone
that
out of the way.
occasionally. With the lawyers, I used to joke about that. It's like, in all truth, everything I've read all the way through the Cold War, we'd probably be better off doing this in Cuba, right?
All right.
Okay,
Than
so
we are here.
when the girl was listing earlier, where she said the SEC says it qualifies it this way, the IRS qualifies it this way, the CFTC qualifies it this way, and I was like, who's on first?
Yeah, right.
Too many cooks in the kitchen, or whatever that saying is.
Everybody wants it to be something it's not, because if
Right.
it's something they want, that means they get to control it.
But at some point, do you stop doing tug of war and do you just let go of the rope and say, you're not the boss of me? At the same time, this is our country. I'm an American. I love my country. I'm not going to leave my country. And do we say, look, there are policies or rules in the CFTC, it's my understanding, that have policies or rules written in for innovation, for rules
They're
or
really-
places to allow innovation that the SEC doesn't have. And that's part of the reason the SEC is so archaic and that crypto really doesn't fit in the SEC to
Honestly,
govern or
If
be
I was going
over.
to put it anywhere, I would put this in. Probably.
Or does it need a whole new?
Yeah, the FTC is probably where it ought to go with all the rest of the businesses. Basic business regulation. That's all we need.
And
You know,
does
what-
crypto
what-
itself
what we're
need to be
talking
broken
about
up into different things? Because all of crypto, when we say crypto, I believe that crypto, like some things are truly like proof of
What
work
Library does
is
is
different
radically different than
than
what Ripple does or XRP.
right. Some
and
things
what Dragon
are
Chain does.
maybe a commodity, and some things are maybe a security, and some things are maybe money.
And for me, I mean,
The
for
analogy I like
Dragon
is
Chain, I would
email.
say they should be regulating us the same way that they would regulate software. And guess what? They don't. I mean, other than you know, how, you know, we can't commit fraud when we sell it, and we can't, you know, do the various things that are obvious. But
Well, I don't want to throw
universal
accusations out for fear of
trade,
being, you know, like sued for whatever, because that's, I guess, what happens in
Right.
the
None of
regulatory
us are
environment.
lawyers.
But
and
you know, Dragon Chain is awful dangerous to a lot of incumbents like IBM and stuff, and Library is awful dangerous to a lot of incumbents like Google and YouTube and stuff, and Ripple's awful dangerous to a lot of incumbents like banks and settlement layers that exist today. And it's
Imagine
just
that-
bizarre
that
to me
kind of-
that that's
that's
like
kind
the
of
only
more
companies
is
that
what
are
I
being
like to
going
do.
after.
More of the broader picture, and what they were talking about in the movie now, and this is a hard. I think this needs to be a whole show. This one part, this one comment that we could do on World Blockchain Roundtable.
Yeah,
we touched on it in last week's show about blockchain improving people's lives, and we're freaks, with the exception of Greg. I know Dave. I know, you know, Joe. I know Lisa's heart.
Hey, I'm a freak.
And my own, and I know that we're really
jealous.
weird because we're super libertarian, like anarchists, but then we're also hugely patriotic. So it's hard. And Dave made the point.
I
When
think that
he
is
said we're not the best,
patriotic.
we're not. That really hurts at first, and you automatically, as a patriotic person, go to defend yourself. Like, hey, go back to your own country. You know, you take this defensive. It hurts to hear it. But would we be better off in fighting for this technology to be in America, which is like one of the biggest things that I know Dragon Chain and Joe fights for, or to just work on fixing our government? Because I don't trust any government, and I don't trust ours. I think ours is the worst. Like maybe with Russia, but because they're so big and so powerful militarily. But it's now at the point I don't trust America. I used to say I would trust the American people to fix it, but I think when I look at like people in Hong Kong and all across the world, they have I think more of the American spirit than most Americans do nowadays. And they're all willing to stand up and fight their governments. I think the problem that we're all talking about is just bureaucracy, and governments, period, have gotten so huge and have their thumbs in so many pies that they're making all the pies taste like thumbs instead of like apples, you know? So is it smarter now to just give up and let Brazil become, you know, just everything in this blockchain?
Well, that's what it seems like. That's what's being pushed for. Maybe unintentionally, or maybe intentionally. I don't
No.
know. But
No.
it seems like there's this brain drain that's being either engineered, or people are just stupid.
No.
I think we're
Because
actually underestimating Americans a little bit.
it
here.
doesn't matter.
I think
So
we're probably doing better than we show on the surface.
it doesn't matter. It only took 3% at during the revolution. I had this conversation with my mother today. And she was getting frustrated, and she's like, you know, I really thought these people are intelligent. Like, they're going to see the truth and they're going to wake up. And I told her, you know what? You know, we're beating our head against the wall. We're getting frustrated. And I said, it really doesn't matter if the normies wake up, to be totally honest. What matters is those of us that are passionate about changing it, take action and change it, because the normies are going to do the same thing they're doing right now. They're going to do what they're told.
Right. Don't waste
And
your
if
time trying
we-
to wake up the sheep.
Right. And
on wolves.
if we take action and change it, then we tell them to use Bitcoin, they're going to go, okay. And they're going to use Bitcoin because they don't want to be responsible and take action and protect themselves. They want to be told what to do and be protected. They want to be a citizen.
That is some people's comfort zone. That's
And that-
true.
But I mean,
And that's
there's also,
fine.
like,
I don't want that.
And there's a lot of merit there, right? Like
we don't have to wait for that, is what I'm saying. We don't have to wait.
Right.
We can take
You only
action.
need
We
about,
can rise up.
Agreed, Lisa.
3%.
Yeah, I think I kind of side with you on this one. I think that ultimately people are going to shift. Maybe I take a little bit less of a pessimistic view about their levels of willingness to go a certain way being that route. I just think they want to go the best way they can, and they need people who have an opinion about that to lead that way. And sometimes
I'm just saying they will follow. Right. They are the followers. Don't ask them
Those
to turn before you're willing to take action.
Truth.
You just take action and they will follow. They are not the leaders.
I'm going to try something here.
When I look and I see the Canadian truck drivers doing what they did, and in the same thing in the United States, really, it was supposed to be the same thing or bigger. It was like, a third as big. When I look at the Netherlands and I see their government, unfairly come down on them, and then the massive thing that they did standing up with the violence brought back against them, and they still persisted. When years ago we saw the Gilets jaunes, every weekend they were there, they were hitting it. And then I see the United States, it's not that. The only people who stand up and do things are people that just want to do violence and,
That's not
and
true.
That's unfortunate.
Not true. You're seeing people pull their kids out of school. You're seeing mothers come down and join, school boards. You're seeing things on a local level.
But now, Lisa,
there are things happening.
Now, Lisa, you just opened this can up. I did see that, and it was really awesome. And then those people by our bureaucratic government that I have said is terrible, labeled them as domestic terrorists.
And
has
extremists.
special task force going against them. That's what I'm talking about. It's either do we let blockchain just let it go and improve and say, hey, it's not going to happen in the United States. We've messed up the country so bad. We need to fix this first. We can't keep trying to fix this one thing. It's like treating the symptoms and never getting rid of the sickness, or let it just explode in another country that's ready.
Sean, regardless of where it goes, it will have an American spirit if Americans build it.
Well, that's kind of becoming my question, is like, what does the United States stand for today? I don't know if I know the answer to that question right now. And I want to say that Reggie keeps popping in and out. I just added, if you can hear us, let us know that you're on the stream and stuff. But I think you're having connection issues because you keep dropping in and out. So the other next to Sean there that has no face, that should be Reggie Middleton. But we'll see if that works out.
See, I said at the beginning this should be a whole show. I'm sorry I even brought it up, but yeah.
I can hear you guys.
All right, hey, fantastic, fantastic. Welcome. I'm about to start the movie again, but then just chime in if you want us to pause, and we'll carry on about something else.
Okay.
We've already been working with a couple of different groups that were interested in the unique angles that we had on the technology for the things they needed to do. On an incubator, we wanted to basically create a framework where a project, even if it's only a single person, if it's an idea or if it's something that's already been built, that they can come through and flesh out what's needed to get them to the next level.
Okay, there were a lot of exciting projects that signed up right away. I think we had over 500 projects that submitted applications, including Look Lateral and Metropolis.
With the platform itself, we decided we needed a way to tokenize the access.
I'm Nicola
I was saying
Savoia.
Those were all real
CEO
meetings
of
that they were filming through the glass. You don't have to pause it. You can just talk over it.
Oh, okay.
I didn't have to act. I was just...
Look Lateral was founded by my mother, the Italian journalist Maria Grazia Savoia. It was a magazine It was a magazine born in 2007. So I was developing an art advisory platform, a platform based on Art Advisor, which is the person who explains you the value of an artwork. I decided to create this marketplace for fractions of artworks, so a sort of art stock exchange. Of course, I read a lot of possible technology that could be useful for this platform. I was creating something very new, and my duty was to understand which technology could be the best technology for my project. I started to study blockchain. I understood that was the perfect technology for what I wanted to create. The world of art is full of lacks, a lack of transparency, a lack of liquidity, and so to have a technology that allow you to track everything in the life cycle of an artwork, or to give you the possibility to fractionalize the ownership of an artwork through an innovative tool like the smart contract instead of the old co-ownership agreements. I was surprised in seeing how much this technology was perfect for the art problems. This create a big circle of liquidity, a new liquidity in the art market. And so I decided to use this technology.
Cinematographer
started to search a CTO
grew up in the same town as Nicola.
Could have the possibility to implement this technology in my vision. And
he ended up dating the same girl, not at the same time.
Nicola reached out to me on LinkedIn way back. He saw that I had some
So was his
blockchain
project
background,
attacked as
and
well?
They were wanting to
Yeah.
do something. They had a few ideas.
I explained my vision and the project and why we would like to use blockchain. He immediately understood. He got to the point.
So Look Lateral makes it possible for anyone in the world to own a piece of, some of those really high-end artworks. You don't have to be a billionaire to say, oh, I want to buy that. It's like, oh, you can actually own a piece.
If you divide the ownership of an artwork in 1,000 or 1 million fractions, of course you can own a piece of a Picasso or a piece of an emergent artist.
If you're a healthcare expert and you have an idea that could be tokenized, you shouldn't have to know all the blockchain experts in the world to deliver that.
That was a cool,
a number of.
You get Washington State, you get Wyoming, you get wherever they were, right? Just in the music chain. I can see how this was episodes, though. They have a vibe in the beginning.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Our partners, most of the incubator firms that were announced received an official subpoena from the SEC with no notice to us, which was really bad because I was out of office and the rest of the team was kind of freaked out.
The thing is with these projects, these are small businesses, these are startups. They have no money yet behind them other than what their kind of sweat equity is. And now they're getting forced to hire lawyers to protect them. And I can hear their frustration. It's one of those things with Dragon Chain where at this moment we're spending more on legal than any other resource combined. And this is really slowing down innovation and resources that could be used better elsewhere. We could be so much farther along in the game if the government let us.
Metropolis is an HR and recruiting platform built on top of a blockchain. Joe and I, we met in a business capacity at Disney years and years ago. I mean, if you go big picture and you think about the possibilities of what blockchain can do, there's not a single government entity that's in charge of one thing. It's completely decentralized. And the fact, I love that. We were one of the companies to receive an SEC subpoena. I thought for sure this is a scam. And then I look a little bit further in and I'm like,
yes,
yeah,
it is.
That's not a scam. That's not a scam. That says at sec.gov. It says subpoena. Wow. Clearly you guys don't know who I am. I'm just a little dude, you know? I don't have anything, this is not the droid you're looking for. I'm stressed, I'm sweating, I'm freaking out. What have I done to get a subpoena? I am screwed. It says I gotta fly to Chicago and see the SEC in person, and I'm a little bit flattered, but I'm scared out of my mind. We have done nothing wrong. We bought a web domain, we have a code base, and we sent out an idea to about 10,401 at the time folks on Telegram who are passionate about Dragon Chain, and said, here's an idea, what do you think? It feels very unjust.
And so it's really frustrating.
Maybe it is a
because we
scam.
feel like
Maybe
we
he's right.
Try to do everything the right way and by the book and according to the laws. And then
They
still
were
come
pretty
after you.
good.
So in my eyes,
Pretty good group
it's a
too.
huge
They-
intimidation thing.
It's their
and you can
expertise,
tell
they're
that some of
building
these
that
incubator
system.
projects are shooken up
Cool
because
project.
again, they're just starting. They
Looks
want
like there's
to
a
have their
pattern
dream
here.
and push this
Yeah.
new awesome technology to people and have them understand it. And especially with a project such as Give With Nothing, they are
just
a
stopped,
complete
walked away.
non-profit play. This was the reason why I personally wanted to get
This one.
involved with them, because they wanted to bring clarity to that industry and make sure that money was being spent clearly. And now it feels like the government is saying that you can't do that.
Okay, so of all the projects that they've,
Can't bring
because they're
clarity.
partners with us, so this is like a small, but it's a sample of what's out there, that I believe BioCrypt is going to move outside the U.S. I can't remember what domicile. Look Lateral is very much leaning towards Switzerland. Give With Nothing is looking to just give up because it's not worth the risk involved of doing this in the U.S. And they're Americans, and they say, well, we just won't do anything. Which that's a charity one. So it's like, if the charity one is scared to do anything, then I don't know what profit-seeking project would be interested in doing it in the U.S. right now.
They threaten so many charities.
I wonder why that is.
Tyler Lindholm.
There's
I
that
am
tree.
House District
UNESCO
1,
tree.
state representative in the state of Wyoming. If anybody ever knocks on your door and says, I'm running for such and such government position, and you ask them why they're running, they give you a vanilla answer that this, they're trying to do public service or something like that. We should elect people that are mad about something, that want to make a change, and because they're actually going in to fix something, they're passionate about something, and that's why I ran. The biggest thing that I was passionate about was some of the agriculture aspects that were in place. A lot of folks think about agriculture, they think about farm subsidies, those types of things, but a lot of the reasons those exist is because the federal government or the state government in lots of situations has restricted farmers and ranchers from being able to sell directly to consumers.
The economic challenge.
Why can't you buy raw milk?
To be profitable every year.
I want to elect a deletionist, somebody who's just
Yes,
running
can't
the
buy it in
platform.
there.
I want
You just can't buy it directly from a farmer.
60
Yeah,
years ago.
can't buy eggs either.
Soon as these big
Not directly.
corporations, the big packing plants, have got together and they basically have dictated what price they'll pay to the producer every year. It isn't based on the economy. It isn't based on inflation. It's based on how much are they going to make that year and how much are they going to let the producer make.
A lot of my goal when I went in was to kind of free up that market, to make that producer to informed end consumer relationship actually happen. I think the most exciting aspect of blockchain technology and what we're seeing right now, what you can do with food with it.
This happens to be the XRS2 stick reader, is we're able to read that electronic identification. It's recorded, and then we can transfer it via Bluetooth, or we can hook up the computer and transfer that information to the blockchain system.
With blockchain technology, we can prove the source of any one of these products, from tomatoes to cattle to chickens. We can prove that source, and we can prove it on a plate. And I really think that's where this technology can be beneficial.
My name is James Bird. I am currently elected
in the State House of Representatives representing House District 44. The blockchain was something that I'd heard about, and it was out there floating around, but I was busy working on a couple other bills.
During 2015, the Wyoming Division of Banking came out with some regulations that said that any and all cryptocurrency exchanges have to go through the Wyoming Transmitters Act. Now, mind you, this is an act that was written before digital currencies were ever a thing, so really didn't fit the mold at all.
Don't worry, we have Fed now
A
coming.
lot of outfits just flat left the left the state of Wyoming. They wouldn't do business with Wyoming customers. So we put together this package of bills, and we threw a couple touchdowns.
Tyler Lindholm, the prime sponsor on it, we are good friends, and we go back and forth. We're, kidding, adversarial, and everything. He jumped on this, and so as we were going through it, I felt bad, but that he kind of scooped me on this whole deal, because this is really kind of what I'm all about. But so I joined on it as a prime sponsor, co-sponsor, and really helped push this thing through the legislature with Tyler.
Right, so we had 5 pieces of legislation. One took care of that Money Transmitters Act, so those exchanges could come back to the state of Wyoming. And then our second one, and I really think kind of our bigger one, had to do with open blockchain tokens, or ICOs. And all that did was differentiate that there is a difference between utility tokens and security tokens. And we've essentially, in the state of Wyoming, made that a new asset class. That one we got a lot of attention for, rightfully so. If you look at Congress right now, they're not doing anything. Right? They're not trying to look at this ICO situation and trying to clean up regulation. We've got companies fleeing the United States, U.S. citizens. They're taking their companies to Malta because the federal government has done nothing, and there's so much uncertainty in regards to what should happen or what kind of regulations are in place.
And because of the blockchain, and because of a couple other bills that we did that inside the business entities section that address technologies, we are seeing those entrepreneurs, those people in the tech sectors, those people behind the money and the ingenuity inside the blockchain, inside the Bitcoin. They're coming to Wyoming and they're setting up shop, because in the other places, they're still getting the discussion as, yeah, we like that, we're really interested in it, but we're not there. Hey, we'll get back to you. Why don't you call us back in 6 months?
We're registering anywhere from 2 to 3 businesses per day since the end of session. So it's really a groundswell of new businesses that are registering in the state of Wyoming. What does that mean to the average Wyoming voter or citizen? It means that that company is now paying an annual fee to be able to have their business domiciled in the state of Wyoming. It's one of the cheapest fees in the nation, but it is a fee just the same that goes to pave roads, that goes to build schools, etc.
Good.
So that's a really
Good for
cool
them. Good.
aspect, but that's a very base aspect.
They also don't
What
have
I'd really like to see is I
mandatory
want these
disclosure on
companies, I want
anybody.
brick
Like,
and
you can
mortar, I want
just have
office
one
jobs, I
person
want,
that doesn't have
I
to
want
be
the
a
tech
founder.
jobs, I want innovation to happen right here.
I want you to know
Don't
Wyoming
dox
is
you.
open for business right now. You want to come out to Wyoming, you want to set it up, we're going to facilitate you going as far out into space as you can and blowing it up as big as you can.
We want the next.
That's what's up.
We want the next Google. We want the next Facebook.
Wow,
I
sounds
don't know
like
if it's gonna
America.
happen. I mean, that's a big dream for me.
Yeah, Wyoming's still
Maybe
holding the
it'll
torch,
never
I
happen.
guess.
I don't know.
Mhm.
But dreams are free. Might as well dream big, I guess.
I wonder what happened to that idea.
We became the first $1 million company to accept Bitcoin, but we were $1.3 billion. At the time, the largest business in the world was a diner in Australia of $800,000 a year revenue, I am told. And the world of Bitcoin was kind of expecting, in a year or two, they'd have a company with $1 million, maybe a few years later, so 10 million, 100 million, maybe someday billion.
He was
stepped
at the
in and
same
started
event I got
taking
to
it
speak at in
1.3
South
or 1.4 billion.
Dakota,
So we like to think that,
2 years
or I've
ago.
been told that some people think we saved
at
sort of
the-
5 to 8 years maybe to the movement. For a publicly traded company's CEO to jump into the spaces I did some
was
years
very
ago
intimidating.
was rather dicey, because it wasn't like it was illegal, but it was just non-legal. There was all kinds of big fuzzy areas. Just deciding things is a big step forward, so it takes out gray area. But then in Wyoming, they've passed some very blockchain-friendly laws. I've been so impressed with this visit. I mean, it's nice when they decide things in a way that expands the room for blockchain like they have. Well, Wyoming has passed some laws that really carve out a nice, safe space for blockchain companies to be based, frankly, to come to Wyoming. And I'm so impressed, I think I'm going going to create a facility with 50 developers here. Everybody involved in the ICO world got a subpoena. We did not get a subpoena. It was falsely reported
At that
we
time.
did. We did get a letter asking us for voluntary cooperation. The SEC does not want you to downplay it when
We
you
didn't
have
get a
such
subpoena at the
matter,
beginning
and you're
either.
supposed
It
to
was funny,
say,
they
"We're
sent
under
all of our
investigation
partner
by the
subpoenas.
SEC." So I'm under investigation
They
by
just
the
sent us a
SEC.
notice.
They asked for what turned out
We didn't
to
know
be
why.
2 million documents. I understand that there were days where we had 100 lawyers at a law firm.
Strategy.
Think you weren't
reviewing
important enough?
documents. I think it cost us maybe
No, I don't.
$6 or
There was
$10 million
something there was a
of
reason for
attorneys
it.
sitting in offices.
It's the same thing they're doing with the Very Fund, I think,
making us spend $6-10 million
for the token holders. They're having them submit all this information first.
The establishment, the institutions
funny
that
thing
are
is
going to be
Gensler
there
They haven't
himself
released
wants
any
to-
funds to
own
them.
a lot of the power, a lot
Gensler
of
himself was once
political
part of a
authority.
scandal where he
And they don't
claimed not to
want
know how
to
to
see
check his mail on
blockchain
his
make
phone.
progress because they know what's at the end of it.
Sailors, not people.
There's that sweet baby.
They used to make
Right,
us go out in
Daytona
town in
International Speedway.
uniform just to like
It's the race with
be
the
part of the
Dragon Chain
atmosphere.
car.
Dude, how cool is that?
You know, the SEC has stepped in and basically said, look, you know, we're in the process of regulating this space because there are too many scams, and we want to protect the layman's investor that doesn't really understand what they're putting their money into. And it's not necessarily a matter of dealing with the regulations that are in place today. It's the fear of how the regulations may change tomorrow retroactively. And that's the fear that's creating all of this FUD all over the space.
Imagine if they'd done the same thing with email. We need to check every email before it goes out and make sure it's not a secure email. It's kind of the same thing.
Good old NASCAR.
That place was really loud.
I'm an executor. I make sure, you know, for me, the dream was always to take a vision like a Bill Gates vision, a Steve Jobs vision, and be the one to help make it a reality.
I'd walk that Bill Gates thing back real fast.
This technology itself is meant to disrupt everything, right? That's the whole point of it.
Bitcoin is the new guillotine. The reign of terror, like almost 30,000 elites were killed, which it had to purge the system. And it gave us freedom and democracy as we know it.
I think Americans might want to move aggressively. I don't think the regulators want to move aggressively. I just hope they don't move so slowly. People decide, wow, I got to go to Gibraltar, or I got to go to, you know, the crypto valley in Switzerland.
Well, that's what's happening.
No, they fixed that with the passports for the thing that you're not supposed to talk about.
So we're busy working on the commercial
You know,
platform
the
to make
thing.
sure that it's ready for release. And it's coming up really soon now, and we're excited about it.
No, I don't. Fair. And this is how we do that? No, I don't want to.
I'm kind of nervous. I mean, obviously, I'm super excited about our products, but I mean, like when you have something that's this big about to just drop, when really we're on such tight deadlines, it's really hard to gauge on how this is going to work.
It was some of the most stressful work I've ever had to deal with.
I know, that's a lot of work and a lot of time and a lot of, I don't know, just being unsure. And
I mean, I think we're solving a problem that has never been solved before, and we're doing it in a way that no one's ever thought to. So we're writing code in a language that I don't think anyone's ever written a smart contract for before, and that's kind of cool.
we're just really giving a lot more freedom, and that's really what expands technology, is people thinking of things in different ways. I think we're giving people a really good platform to just excel and explore and just build cool.
There are systemic problems at all levels of management, but it's fun when I'm writing code.
Like, okay, we're thumbs up. We're all good. We're all ready for the commercial launch. And I come out of the meeting and I'm like, how are we? And they're like, we're working on this additional feature. And I'm like, wait a minute, additional feature? Like, I'm sorry, we were ready to go. Who asked for an additional feature? And of course, our esteemed director of marketing, Joe Nell.
Hello.
I'll clean that up and I'll send it to you.
Okay, cool. Awesome. ETA?
Yeah. 20 minutes?
Yes. Cool. But good, good job, guys. 24-hour period. Nice.
Thank you.
The dream was always to take a vision like a Bill Gates vision, a Steve Jobs vision, and be the one to help make it a reality. You know, that there's so many visions out there, but there's some actual visions worth helping out to build. And I feel like the world, the solutions, the good to society that Joe's vision that he's trying to execute is something worthwhile. So that for me to be part of that, I'd be pretty happy with that.
Developers hate it when you bump them.
The Dragon Chain commercial platform.
When you what?
When you bump them with features at the last minute.
Yeah.
There's this thing.
Oh, yeah.
That we never told
All right,
you
we're
about.
all ready. Wait, what other features?
On April 5th, Satoshi's birthday.
Yeah, so one of the big dates kind of coming up is April 5th, when the actual
They did this.
commercial platform is released.
They did one scene where they were wanting to
one
get
of them.
some
This is the
close
one.
footage of the Space Needle, and so they put their drone out there, right, and they're flying probably closer than they're supposed to by the Space Needle, and it lost contact, and so
Oh, no.
it's it's return to home, right? So it switched to return to home, and it flew straight at the freaking tower. And they said they probably missed it by 6 to 12 feet or something.
Epic.
But it was like,
Was it recording the whole time? Got some good footage on it?
Yeah, it's in here. You'll see it when they're really close. It was not supposed to be that close, so it's funny. And I think too, when they do Mount Rushmore, they they actually brought, they told me the way they did it, but they brought in multiple cards, and so they filmed this whole thing, and then they did get caught coming back down from wherever they were out there, and they made them forfeit the memory cards. And so
Oh,
they gave
really?
them
I was
the
going to say
other
they're
memory
very
cards.
specific about that. Yeah.
Yeah, they knew
They
that,
thought
we have
ahead
to be
of time.
careful, blah blah blah. It's just funny. So anyway.
Fortunately, the United
planning.
States is not waiting for the United States either.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I hope
Drop,
not.
drop the rope. Let them have the tug of war. Drop the rope and
Now
build.
we're going to be presenting to every enterprise. We actually have this product, this package to present to the world in regards to, this is it. This is the dream. Here it is. So it's going to be exciting to market. So yeah, we just launched
This
the
right here is
package.
the worst high five ever. There was one awesome point. They really missed each other. So hilarious. I loved it. Nerds high fiving,
Yeah.
At least there's something you can't do.
Play the animations in VR a lot.
There you go.
I don't even remember half of that stuff in this. It was so fast.
I'm glad they did it though, because that's where I lifted for the
I think Ryan
cover.
continues to go
for
higher
this
because
video.
there's value there.
Steph, would you, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but I mean, you named Macy's as one of the stocks, and obviously it had a great start and then stuttered just last, 10 days ago, a week ago, and fell from 41 to 35. Is that one of the ones you'd look at again now?
Okay, let's turn this bad boy up.
John Najarian started playing football in Chicago for the Chicago Bears in 1981. I only played for 4 games and then I got cut. I didn't want to go anywhere else. I wanted to stay in Chicago. And luckily, the trading floors were pretty attractive back then because they had all these, relatively young men and women that are jumping up and down, screaming, waving their hands. I traded on the floor for about 25 years. 2005, we started building a brokerage firm called Trade Monster, eventually selling it to E-Trade for $750 million. We began in 2012 and 13 starting to trade cryptocurrencies, and by 2017 we were pretty active in it. I helped launch tokens, or these ICOs, initial coin offerings. I help people when they're launching those by doing videos with them at the NASDAQ, for instance. I think eventually you'll see more and more people trading stock for Bitcoin, Bitcoin for stock, and so forth, back and forth. Anybody can buy it in any amount. They don't have to be 100,000. They don't have to be super qualified investor. You're not tied up with your money for 4 years or 5 years while you wait for the company to come public. As soon as that token's minted, you have liquidity.
Not everyone's a winner. Don't mean to say that, but there's a lot of them that are winners, and you can recognize that in your wallet right now.
He was super hyped.
When I started covering this as a journalist, back then it was all about how far can this thing go? How far can the price go up? And then as the price sort of subsided, Wall Street was the natural place to look to see, all right, the price is down, the public is less interested, but does that mean that Wall Street is less interested? And the answer was no. I reported on at least 4 people leaving New York to join a crypto firm. The talent raid from crypto to Wall Street is enormous. And that also speaks to why I wouldn't stop paying attention to this space yet, because you just had a whole migration exodus of people from Wall Street that are now working on projects in crypto. And it's ironic, right, that a player like the New York Stock Exchange is getting involved in the space, because when this whole thing came about like 8 years ago, right, the idea was, how can we create a rival payment system to Wall Street that left our economy in ruins? That precipitated this crypto revolution, right? Here we are 10 years later, and Wall Street and the big banks are trying to shove themselves inside of it. Middlemen, essentially, for this product that was developed to eliminate middlemen.
There we go.
They're trying, man. They're trying.
Cointelegraph. Forgot they did.
But that's just one piece of it, right? That's just
Toronto, very proud. Torontonian.
One piece of crypto is the Wall Street comparison.
Right.
That's what I'm saying is where they keep trying to shove it in all these boxes of old finance that it really it doesn't
It's foundational.
fit.
Well, in the beginning with Bitcoin, that's kind of what it was. Is like money's broken, it's screwed. So what can we do to fix that? And then from that idea, other people had ideas that like, oh, you know what, you're right, and actually you can apply that to way more stuff than just money.
Could also be all these other things. Yeah.
In a way, it's almost like a return to hyper barter, in a sense. Like you needed money as a medium of exchange before that was completely fungible, in the sense that you could go from different good here, different good there, money in between to make it work, right? Now you have different kinds of money that are flavored for the different kinds of things and modified for the different kinds of purposes. It's not
But
really
ultimately,
money.
it was all about
like
giving
supply
it back
chain.
to the people.
Yeah, it was a control problem, right? It had to go through. It had to go through gatekeepers. Stuff had to go through gatekeepers, and you had to be allowed to do it. And if they didn't know you were, operating, that wasn't okay.
Well, we'll be able to characterize what it properly was
This
in like
is
50
really
years.
the ground zero for crypto. This is where Ethereum was founded. This is where a lot of the capital is concentrated, because Ethereum created all this wealth. Ethereum is like nothing else that ever has happened before or ever will happen. It was like an absolute rocket ship. It found its kind of go-to-market strategy for fundraising for ICOs like Polymath to raise capital. And yeah, just the whole community, it's the biggest crypto community by far, by 10x.
It comes back to that community, right? Like if we're able to build a community where people feel like, hey, other people are just tackling the same problem I'm tackling, whether it be in a different industry or in a different country, that's okay, but we're all tackling the same problem. And we're at that forefront of making history happen.
Yes, we are.
Tell me, Maddie, does it inspire you to have your mom in this field, in blockchain? We do a lot of international tax structuring. It's not only focused on international tax. For me, it's a broader viewpoint and perspective. And that comes essentially from canvassing the world for the regulation that's the best in the best jurisdiction. But we're seeing a lot of the innovation come out of emerging markets. You're seeing the Caribbean, Africa, and soon to be Latin America and Asia really taking stances that make companies want to go to them. And then after that, it's just a matter of where is it that you want to be based, and all of the other factors that you have to take into consideration.
You provide those commercial banks or financial institutions with the mobile wallet, the ATM, the merchant processing system, all connected to that digital dollar issued by central bank. So we built the entire stack and we launched it in Barbados, and now we're expanding to other Barbados has a digital dollar now. It's a proud moment because this is a region that's been ignored forever. It's not done in any field or any industry. It's been known for sun and sand, and now it's being known for tech. And it's to show the rest of the world that's what you're up against. You're up against that type of regulator.
I'm the Minister for National Security for the government of Bermuda. Bermuda was always innovating to stay on top of it, to bring people to Bermuda, to bring innovation to the world, to make money and survive. And so what we decided to do that no other country had done, that we're going to put some legislation in place that would allow people to say, you know what, I'm going to choose Bermuda, not only because it's beautiful, but because Bermuda has a regulation that will allow us to have regulatory certainty. So in April of this year, we passed the ICO legislation. So if a person has an ICO and they want to raise money or they want to set it up, well, Bermuda is one of the few countries in the world that have ICO legislation.
They're open and they're having these discussions. And when you look at a country like Bermuda that has, in less than 6 months, passed legislation, works with companies, you can get an ICO basically launched within 5 weeks. That's very impressive. And that demonstrates it's a commitment to blockchain companies and a commitment to their local population as well.
A lot of the regulations in Canada is following our neighbor down south. So the whole regulatory landscape in Canada right now is still very gray, very unclear.
The regulators are looking at the 19th century and the 20th century. They have no idea what's happening in the 21st century. Bitcoin will put all the regulators out of business. All the regulators, SEC, FINRA, all over the world, they need to quit, get real jobs, get in the Bitcoin industry, get in the crypto industry, and get on board, because they're all going to be disintermediated within the next 5 years.
3 years to go, just 3 years. Oh, hold on.
Yeah, just 2 more years, 2 more weeks.
It's interesting to see what the international community did to Bermuda, because they tried to do that.
I was 2.5 months old. My mom moved me from Stockton, California to Canton, Ohio. Welfare, Section 8, it was a struggle for my mom. My mom basically raised me and, buying stuff at yard sales for 10 cents and flipping it for $60 at a flea market. I would ask her, where's my dad? What's up with my dad? And all she would ever tell me was just he was involved with really bad people. I tracked him down. I was 21 and he had just gotten out of prison. The first thing I said was, just to let you know right now, I don't want anything from you. I said, but I think you're my father. And he said, who is this? And I said, this is Jason Appleton, son of Gene Appleton. And he said, oh my God, you're my boy. I was stumbling around YouTube and I saw some YouTubers talking about, cryptocurrency, blockchain, Bitcoin, ICOs. The one thing everybody on YouTube says is, do your own research. So I did, and I just read everything. I started buying books on blockchain. I went out and I maxed 3 credit cards to build my first Ethereum mining rig. I spent 30 hard days, and I just had this really powerful epiphany where I understood the technology, all of this technical stuff that was just like gibberish to me for so long. But I kept reading, pushing through, even though I didn't understand a lot of it. And it was almost like it all came together while I was sleeping. And I woke up and I realized this is the future. I was mining Ethereum. And so I was mining it up and I would start investing it in just all kinds of different stuff. And I turned that into 90 grand in 60 days. People who are born into wealth are born with this expectation of themselves and the world around them to provide opportunities for them to make money, right? It's a mindset where it's like, I know I'm gonna be wealthy. And so I'm open to exploring new ways to make sure that happens. People who are born without money, they're born into the grind. They're of the mindset that they're never going to amount to more than the number of hours they punch in at the factory. And so it's this mindset that I'm trying so desperately to break in people, because it's a different day, it's a different age, and there's so much more opportunity right now for somebody that has very little and be able to turn that into a lot.
Back when I first got into Bitcoin, there was not...
I just got to pause for a second and say that was a pretty good segment.
It was.
That's some real talk. That's some real talk.
Yeah.
Well, it's that whole thing about that framework of understanding poverty. That book you can, there's a book by Ruby Payne, and I fell into it when I was doing a lot of inner city ministry, but it talks about the classes and the truths when you're engaging in poverty class, middle class, and the wealthy or upper class. And you learn about money differently because you have different truths about it. And so in poverty class, they value things very little, because you can only sell it one time. It can only feed you one time, but you value relationships because it can feed you multiple times, and entertainment because it can feed you and take care of you multiple times. Middle class values things because a lot of times they will want to be a part of something bigger than themselves, and community, because that's their identity. So they will mortgage their house. They all want to be a part of, there's a national champ hat on every 7-Eleven, because everybody wants to be part of the winning team. But then the wealthy want to be part of legacy, things that last a long time for generations. They buy a car and they drive it till the wheels are off it because they don't care about depreciating assets, and they want to have legacy, things that last a long time, and they want exclusivity. They don't want to be a part of something everyone else is part of. So when you understand those different classes and how they look at money and the expectations on it, it does change your mind about how we treat money and look at it, and what to do with that money.
It's not just treating money. This was something that, like, when he was talking
And
about
our time, our resources,
when
whatever those resources are.
When he was talking about this, that really hit me, because I mean, I was raised middle class, but I'm old. I'm like 74, and when I was a kid, I didn't come from a single parent household. I came from a broken home because because my mom was divorced. And it was still really, really stigmatized. But I was raised with, like, you can do whatever you want. You can be anything. You can do anything. And my mother wasn't raised. She was raised middle class. But, like, my grandpa was, a factory worker. They're like, they're okay middle class. But so I had this friend. It was actually my son Robert, who passed away. He was super close with this family, and single mother, 2 daughters. She was a stripper, and I really didn't know them very well because I didn't associate with them. And then I got ridiculously close with them after Robert passed away, and one of the girls was like, she needed a job. So I was driving her around the city and, like, taking her places to go apply. And she, like, had been a waitress at a bar. And she wanted me to bring her to, like, different bars to go apply. And she's like 18, 17, 18, something very, was super young. And we're going by a shopping center, and I pull over and, like, here, go apply there. And it was like a chiropractor, and it was like a dentist. And she was like, for what? I'm like, well, they need a receptionist or something. And she was like, work in an office? What? I can't do that. And it was just to try to break and change her way of thinking. Like, 90% of the world was closed off to her. She just didn't even realize that she could do it. It was a whole nother way of thinking that I never understood. I still don't really, but from what Crow was saying, it's changing people's way of thinking. I have friends that are the same way. They think they can't get ahead. They're going to work until they're 70 years old, and then try to squeak out 5 or 10 years of not working.
And if you apply that to money or assets, people in wealthy families are used to having an appreciating asset. So they have that building in New York that they know is going to appreciate, that they're going to take loans against, that they're never going to pay off because the building's always going to be appreciating. So that's their income. So they never work. Someone in middle class can't even wrap their mind around that kind of concept.
It's
having
kind
an
of like,
appreciating asset.
We used to be
There's
about
always money in the banana stand kind of thing.
Right.
Like with homelessness. It's like, I remember, years ago, you're like, why are these people homeless? I don't understand. How could you be homeless? Don't you have family? Don't you have? And as it grows, and as like inflation and you feel a lot more. Oh, I understand. Oh, I understand how you can work 40 hours for $10 an hour and still have to live out of your car. You just have money for like food and things. We get it more now. But I remember like my way of thinking the other way is how could things fall apart unless you're a drug addict, unless you're, mentally disabled. But now, I mean, you can see where you can still like do everything you're supposed to do, have a job, work full time, and you still can't make it. It's
well, you can see why people want to crush that out of the system, right? They don't want that. Like they need people to throw themselves into the mill of society and break their backs for 60 years. They need that because if everybody, everybody tried to take a share of what they got, then there wouldn't be a need for middlemen. Like there would be any left if they had to split it.
All
right, let's go on.
A lot of education out there. There wasn't a lot of information. The websites were janky. The resources for me to learn back then weren't nearly as robust as they are now. However, people now don't have an excuse because there's information about Bitcoin everywhere. And so I always try to implore people to learn more about what Bitcoin is, what blockchain is. This is not about some kind of random digital payment, or digital currency. It's really a movement. Obviously, China going all in on blockchain was a direct result of the Libra hearings.
Thank you, and I'm looking forward to answering your questions.
Thank you very much.
Why would you have a project like that?
We provide the guidance to the regulators. Will you commit to waiting until you get approval from every U.S. regulator that Libra affects before you'll support launching Libra? Yes or no?
Everyone agrees Facebook has become
Please wait.
too powerful. But the more important thing is basically what that signal to China
pump
is.
the brakes. That's all I hear.
They're not going to make the first move. They're not going to power forward with cryptocurrency and blockchain. Now it's our opportunity to do that. I think it's the modern day space race. I think it's going to be who succeeds, the United States or China, in getting a digital currency that is going to get worldwide adoption.
Man, they got front run. They don't like being front run. Oh wait, slow it down so we can go back and get into it when we should have in the first place.
Could you imagine if they just unannounced? They're like,
Daytona National
you'll notice
Speedway.
a wallet in your Facebook.
So it's a race with the Dragon Chain car. So
my name's Corley Joy. I drive the 72 Dragon Chain TriStar Chevrolet. It's my second year in Cup, so I'm knocking all the rookie rust off, and I'm in my sophomore season having fun with it.
The crypto community is super cool. Like, it's just great to see all these different projects, and especially ones that are out there helping the world. Like, this is just some really awesome stuff that we're going to change the world with.
I mean, it was a funny thing because it just fits perfect because we're an American blockchain. It's NASCAR. It's not to promote the coin or to promote the price or anything stupid. It's just, you think about it, we're after enterprises, we're after startups, we're after American innovation. So that's what it's about.
When you can take $1,000, turn it into $50,000 in a matter of 30 days, 60 days, or whatever, it's an opportunity for those with less today to gain more for themselves tomorrow. The SEC has stepped in and basically said, look, we're in the process of regulating this space because there are too many scams, and we want to protect the layman's investor from putting money into something that doesn't have merit. A wall has been put up in front of all of us. And so when you look at other countries who are, there are much smaller countries that are much further evolved and further ahead than we are when it comes to this space. And that's why a lot of these major companies with very solid projects, fantastic white papers, amazing all-star teams are saying we don't want any part of the United States because we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We're not worried about today. We're worried about 6 months from now, 3 months from now, and then whatever that change may be, falling back on us retroactively and creating a whole world of problems. And then we have to go back and play cleanup. Nobody has time for that. This is a forward-thinking process. You should have the same freedoms that anybody else has, and that freedom shouldn't be dictated by how much money you start with.
Amen, brother.
Hey, good. How are you? There you go. If you read that, go to
Ross
our
is still
website.
sitting in jail.
He's my son. He's doing he's serving a double life sentence for all nonviolent charges.
Where?
in Colorado in a federal prison. He created the Silk Road website. Have you heard of that?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's him.
Yeah, we're supposed to be a beacon of liberty and all that, and it's like we incarcerate more of our people than any other country in the world. Sometimes I'm like, I don't even
So
believe
fucking
this.
fucked up. Didn't solve anything either. They just made a whole bunch of more dark markets.
Yep.
I want the story to be about the technology. I want the story
They
to be
let all
about
those guys
how
out, though.
technology can solve real world problems. That's what the story needs to be.
It was vengeance. Same thing
During
they
the
did to
SEC
Assange.
investigation, it definitely slowed things down and distracted. And the weeks leading up to that was stress beyond compare and not being able to do work.
Our forefathers sacrificed to create a nation based upon liberty and democracy. Now our government is attacking its own citizens for developing technology based on the purest expression of those values.
Well, the threat is that innovation goes overseas. And if blockchain is everything that I've bet my entire career that it's going to be, which will be the most important technology of my time, it may not be developed and fostered in the US.
It may not. That's what gets me, man. It's like I want the U.S. to like succeed and continue to be awesome.
Dude, I'm about to float on an artificial island, man. You can buy those now.
Thrown out is the idea of freezing all of our assets. And so we're responding with documentation on how the ICO ran, what were the results of the ICO, what have been the disbursements since the ICO.
You know, on top of Dragon Chain getting subpoenaed, Joe, Eileen, and I got individual subpoenas. It's stressful and it's distracting and it's I wouldn't say a waste of time, but I mean, in terms of companies' time, it kind of is. There is so much legal fees going towards this case and going towards this
Like,
defense.
at what point is it
I
harassment?
Definitely feel Joe's
It's past that
stress in regards to having to
Torture.
meet with these guys every day. With
And we didn't
some of the
realize
expertise.
that most of the attorneys, most of the law firms are
regulation.
in on the whole racket. I mean,
But
we didn't
they-
realize
when it
the
comes to
fact that
We're down to
when it comes to the
moving
federal
a lot
level,
of
they
false
don't
blockers
break
away
laws.
from
You know, they can
SEC
kind of
building,
do what they want.
and we
They're
have
not really harassing
meeting
you.
there
to get
all
They're the federal
day,
government.
interview, whatever it would be, where I basically have to go answer questions and give them details, you know, whatever they ask. So it would be interesting.
Nobody they hate stays in the industry that fights them. Put it that way.
Yeah.
Eileen, that is one of our founding members, Eileen, who I love dearly and respect dearly, and she is no longer with us. And I truly believe that if that whole situation with the SEC didn't happen, that would not have happened. This was her dream job. She came out of Disney. She's one of the founding members in regards to this whole thing coming together and played a huge role in regards to Dragon Chain's growth and where it is at today. We lost a great worker because of this whole situation by a third party, and it's unfortunate, but yeah, so she's no longer with the company, and I wish her the best.
I'm here in Chicago, and I just got out of meeting, interview, testimony with SEC. We definitely got into a lot of the details of utility and what Dragon Chain is and what's different about it.
And I personally feel very good in regards to how the conversations went, and I'm just so happy that kind of part is over with, and that we can get to focus on building.
I feel like this past year has made our business stronger, has made our marriage stronger, our family stronger, and just I feel like we're stronger individually and as people. We've really grown from this experience.
You had Joe in meetings with lawyers 4 or 5 hours a day. You had the CEO of this company, a thought leader in this industry, a revolutionary in terms of the tech, right? And instead of focus on building the technology that, you know, that came out of Disney and is well respected, he's just in meetings all day talking with legal. That's not how you innovate. You know, that's not the American dream. That's not the freedom to do what you want to do. And
Damn sure ain't.
It's
It's horrible.
Part of their strategy,
I'm just
though.
thinking back on what we could have done with that money in terms of growth and putting it into like resources as far as people.
Yeah, it's frustrating because you're going to see places like China and Japan and like places that are more friendly towards this technology and regulating it. You know, they're going to experience huge growth, huge innovation, huge financial rewards, and you know, hopefully we can get our crap together and do the same thing.
I do feel like
And the
future
geopolitics got a
looks
lot
bright
weirder,
right
didn't
now.
they?
I feel so much better about it.
We have the actual technology, and I'm just excited now to present that to the world. That this isn't imaginary anymore. No.
Yeah, it's good relief.
But hopefully from here on out, it'll get a little easier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm Lynn Ulbricht, and I'm the mother of Ross Ulbricht, who's the defendant in the Silk Road case, who is currently serving 2 life sentences plus 40 years for all nonviolent charges for his role in that website. He's always been a very idealistic person and cares about people and ideas and ways to make the world a better place. And that is where he was coming from with creating Silk Road. But it was an open market and fairly unregulated, and the idea of drugs being exchanged, which, by the way, 70% of what was on there was small amounts of cannabis. Just to be clear, there were rules. It wasn't a totally open market. It was based on a philosophy of voluntary interaction and no force. Things that created victims were not allowed, and that would include, say, child pornography or stolen property. A Silk Road admin said one of his jobs was all day long taking off things like hacking software and violent services. He wanted people to experience a truly free market that was safe and private. Although I certainly don't go, oh, Silk Road was a great thing and everything on it was great, and no, I don't. And I don't defend drugs or any of that. But this isn't even about drugs, this case. It's really about personal privacy and freedom and due process.
The biggest criminal trial in the history of the internet is over this morning, and so apparently is Ross Ulbricht's freedom.
First-time offender, no record of violence at all, no victim came forward at trial to say Ross had harmed them, and yet he got double life plus 40 years. Certain aspects of witnesses' testimony was stricken from the record. They got to talk about murder for hire even though it wasn't being charged. The jury never ruled on it. It was never proven. It's all been dropped. When a judge, and not a jury, decides that you're guilty of something and uses it to sentence somebody, that's a violation of the Sixth Amendment. The Sixth Amendment was written to protect the accused from that exact thing, that one judge decides, well, maybe it's not proven, and maybe a jury didn't rule on it, but I think it's true. She was recommended by Chuck Schumer, who was behind the case. He's the one that really said, we got to take this down, we got to go after Bitcoin. That was Chuck Schumer, senior ranking member on the Senate Finance Committee, the Banking Committee, and very much involved in financial powers. Silk Road served as the first proof of use of
Gotta keep that money
Bitcoin
flowing to the government
and
contractors,
consequently cryptocurrency. And one author, Brian Eha, in his book,
Raytheon needs those missiles.
said that was why Ross was the second most important figure in Bitcoin history after Satoshi. The biggest drug seller on Silk Road got 10 years. Blake Benthal, who was running Silk Road 2.0, he was arrested. The government was like, it's identical to Silk Road, only it's bigger. It sells more drugs in a month. It has more listings. 13 days later, he's out. No trial, nothing. And no one knows where he is. If Ross is so dangerous, then why is Blake Benthal out in 13 days? This is not equal justice. And one of the tenets of our system is equal justice under the law. 17,000 nonviolent people in our system now serving life. Life sentences have quintupled since the 80s. And this is a terrible thing. This is wrong. Our values are being hijacked by the criminal justice system. I think that cryptocurrency has a great future. It's an amazing creation. I do think we're at a tipping point in history. I'm looking at a crossroads here. One way is towards more government intrusion and control. And including in cryptocurrency, and the other is towards more innovation and freedom, individual freedom. And we are deciding right now, at this point in history, which way we're going to go.
What are you going to do over the next 20 years?
I want to have had a substantial positive impact on the future of humanity.
Already did.
Yeah, it's wild
here
to
on Wall Street. I think
live
there's
through
a
these
symbolic
times, right?
meaning to why
This
we
turning
chose
point.
location. This is the epicenter of all things economic, and it gets to be that we get to help revolutionize the global economy, or at least play our small part right here on Wall Street. What I've loved seeing from my vantage point is people from far-flung corners of the earth who have an opportunity to make a difference. You don't have to live in San Francisco or, and I say this sitting in a skyscraper in New York, in this city to stand out in this industry.
Blockchain is non-discriminatory. Anyone can participate in these networks. It doesn't matter what your background is, what your credit score is, where you live. If you have access to the technology, you get to participate.
A pair-driven marketplace is something that we obviously need in this world.
Nearly 2/3 of the world's population today doesn't have access to banking. This will begin to give them the same opportunities.
Give people the tools.
Give them the road to drive down.
A system that is equal access to everybody. So if you think about that, that is a deep, deep foundation for an entirely new world.
Now I'm really excited about actually seeing these companies deploy their blockchains, actually seeing the real impact so that these ideas become real.
The technologies will get to where it needs to be.
But it takes a lot of effort to get that momentum started.
And innovation does not happen in this tiny bubble. It doesn't. Innovation's got to have legs.
Bankers, by being able to just print money and hoard money, the wealth and income gaps start to skyrocket.
And it really comes down to the old way, which is share certificates that collect dust in a filing cabinet versus programmable tokens that you can command to do things.
Help participate.
It's actually way worse than that.
Create this new crypto economy for truly decentralized systems of exchange.
The filing cabinet would at least make sense.
Open source money, if you will.
Yeah.
I'm hoping the world will be a level playing field in 5 to 10 years from now.
Let's make the space collaborative.
This is a new era of disruption, a transfer of wealth. It's a period of time that I knew I was not going to let pass me by.
If we don't go further into Bitcoin and further into cryptocurrency and blockchain, then we're going to get left behind.
And everybody understands that you don't want America to be last. There are a bunch of great places, it's not disparaging, where people can
You're
set
not
up shop.
first, you're
I
last.
hope the United States becomes one of them.
Ricky Bobby.
Ricky Bobby couldn't have said any better.
Coordinated,
America's all about
put together a
shake and bake.
strategy, put together a
Nasty,
plan to
badass
accept
speed.
and support this innovation in
Eleanor
the
Roosevelt.
U.S. Then we can still be a dominant player in this ecosystem.
The onus is on us. You're in control.
We have the f***ing power.
Forget about all these big ads companies. Forget about all the Google ads. Like that is so like old school. Let's think about a new model.
But I'm telling you, you have to start somewhere. And so one of the things we counsel our clients is find a use case. Find a really good one. Find one that works today. Find a problem and then solve it. And if you can do that consistently, we can tell that story.
This hearing is another remote hearing via video. I remind all senators again and the witnesses that the 5-minute clock still
Wait,
applies.
sorry.
And we
Their
will
graphic went to
proceed
sleep.
in the order I introduced you. So, Mr. Giancarlo, you may proceed.
I was last before you 2 years ago as CFTC
Pause real
chairman.
quick.
The subject then
Yeah.
was Bitcoin.
I was said it's all on mute, but it's weird hearing her say that, like Google and Google, like that's all old school. And I've made this point so many times that with blockchain, even just computers in general, PCs, the technology has moved so fast that it's allowed a lot of technology has leapfrogged over not just my lifetime, but like just the past like 20 years. You can look at like cell phones. There's villages who have never had phone service, like landlines, the whole village, and then they leapfrog to having cellular. You know, so but all through history, before something is considered old school or, you know, passe, everybody understands it. Most everybody uses it, but everyone's aware of it and how it works. Like if we move to floating cars, like everybody knows what a car is. Maybe not everyone knows how to drive, but they know the basics about cars.
Yeah, and floating cars is a decent analogy to the cell phone leapfrog too, because what if you didn't have to build all those roads to get infrastructure?
But hearing her say, like, never before in history that I know of is something so new. Because I used to work for Best Buy was the worst, but because people, they don't understand anything. They don't know what the search bar is. They don't know what the address bar is. I had one woman, old lady, started crying because I told her her email was, hacked. I think it was when I was working for Microsoft, that her email was hacked and she needed to start a new email. And she starts crying, and then her husband gets on the phone and starts screaming at me. He's like, "We just paid $1,800 for this computer. We're not buying another one." And I'm like, "You know what?" And they literally thought that like the email address went to the computer at like a regular house address. So to have a new email address, they had to have a new house, which means they had to buy a new computer. And I was like, but to hear her say like, this is all old stuff now, and there's people out there that don't know anything at all, it's just so crazy to me.
My favorite story is about how the person who got their computer home called up customer support, and they were like, "Man, no matter how hard I stomp on this foot pedal, I can't make anything happen." They were stomping on the mouse. It was fantastic.
I had a computer repair shop where a lady had come in, never used a computer before, and had a Windows Vista computer that her daughter had given her. And after realizing that she didn't have, and this is, I think, probably the upside, is that I realized since she had never used a computer before, she didn't have any expectations or bad habits. So I was like, "Oh, wait, you've never used a computer? Come back tomorrow. Leave this laptop here. Come back tomorrow." And I installed Linux Mint on it. And she came back the next day, and she was like, I showed her how to use it. And she was like, "Oh, this is way more easy to understand." Without the expectation of like something that was ingrained in what a computer typically is to people, or what it used to be, basically.
Well done, sir.
Yeah, I have friends that still say, whenever they're talking about it, they say the computers, and they do their hands like this. The computers. I'm like, oh God, man.
So we've got about 10 minutes or less, maybe 7 minutes left on this. I don't know how much of that is credits and stuff. So we're towards the end here. You want to wrap this up and then maybe chat a little bit afterwards? And didn't realize we were 2 hours and 20 minutes in with all the stopping. So,
wow.
All right, here we go.
Very awesome.
Yeah, he's getting tired holding his face like that. So here we go.
Oh my God, he looks like he's going to eat us, man. Giancarlo.
I urge respect for a new generation's interest in virtual currency innovation with a thoughtful and balanced policy
Some
response.
early AirPods, or
Well, today I'm before you to talk about something that is perhaps more important, and that is upgrading our own national currency, the U.S. dollar, into a digital instrument for generations to come.
If we already had a digital dollar, how differently would things look?
It would be, in a sense, an alternative to the existing architecture, which is the accounts-based architecture, which, despite many efforts to modernize, still inherently remains slow, expensive, and rather exclusionary.
Do you think that the Treasury and the Federal Reserve are equipped to take on those pilot projects? Do they have the necessary
take them on
resources and staffing?
The answer to your question is, I really believe the right way to do this is the way we did it in the space program, the way we did it in the early days of the internet. And that is the core policy is driven by the official sector, would be driven by the Federal Reserve. But we would bring in the innovativeness of the private sector, the project management skills of the private sector, and the sense of urgency of the private sector to drive this forward.
I take it from
We'll saddle them up and suck all the life out of them.
that none of you are opposed to a digital currency for the U.S. dollar. Is my assumption correct?
Yes, Senator.
That's correct. All right, I'd like each of you to tell me what Congress needs to do.
Well, that seemed like a pretty good attitude, actually. It's like, all right, what do we need to do to help you
it's been 2
facilitate
years,
this new thing?
and
Look
my
what I got out of that.
stress level
From
is
him,
higher.
from him anyway.
If that's
That was
possible.
a grant of legislative power by
and legal fees.
the legislature that gave them the ability do
during
that.
the SEC investigation.
This is when Joe started growing
definitely
his beard,
slowed things
apparently.
down and distracted.
This
and
is the stress
weeks
beard.
leading up to that.
That's why it's so
was
long today.
Stress beyond compare, and not being able to do work. We've been building
wrote our enabling
this
act, dude.
product more and more, and making it more stable, making it more, beyond a proof of concept, beyond a
There's
beta
what
product,
Congress can
beyond
do.
a live
Says Jared,
product.
who's
In 2 years, we've done so much. We took what was built at Disney
Resolve my
and
age.
we built hundreds of features on top of it, speed improvements. We've redesigned it from the ground up.
To be able to then show it off at a level of that is indicative and actually can show that real life applications could be built to withstand, to have that scalability. It's so important nowadays to not just talk about what you've done, but to show it.
We're doing a performance demonstration for DragonNet. So, like, this is showing all the transactions that are going through production DragonNet.
I didn't know this
We're
made it
trying
in.
to spin up about 10 chains. Bitcoin and Ethereum are doing 4 transactions a second, and we're pulling right now. That last node was 3,486 transactions a second, and that's not even our peak. We're gonna pump this thing up. 246 million since 9 a.m. yesterday. Yeah, 15,142 transactions a second right there.
So fun to see it. Like, to me, it was almost like a SpaceX type of experience to kind of just to see the tech work. You know, I definitely felt a lot of joy and celebration to kind of see the baby walk, you know, or the dragonfly, you know.
We started at a Postgres database and some Python code, and we've changed that into a cloud-native microservices architecture that scales up and down and can be built with the push of a button, and it can handle, 4,000 transactions a second for 24 hours, no problem, while all the developers who built it slept soundly.
The vision that we have since the beginning and remains is to build a platform that you can create anything on, that an entrepreneur can come in and actually leverage that unique, valuable technology that is blockchain in a way that you can't on any other platform.
Our developers have built an exceptional platform, exceptional. As far as Dragon Chain is concerned, no matter what happens, I know the technology will live on.
No matter what happens with the regulators in the US and in the world, there's no stopping blockchain technology, and Dragon Chain will live on. We need to stand together and defend the right to build the America that we want.
I'm surprised they let him even shoot that. Usually you're not allowed to shoot over the top of.
I think that was the one where they had to shuffle memory cards on the way down.
Yeah, because you're usually not allowed to shoot the top of it like that.
That's a wrap, folks.
That was cool.
There's some really good quotes in there.
Great information.
So, real fast, gotta get
Joe,
my gripe
you're
out with
muted.
With that freaking Giancarlo scene where the guy looked like he was gonna eat us. That was, for the record, the head of an agency that was created by the legislature with the grant of legislative power to do stuff that the legislator directed them to do under a tightly bound mission. Being asked by a legislator what they should do.
Yeah.
This is like literally the deep state.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to know what it is, it
Circular.
is Congress asking bureaucats what they should do.
Yeah, maybe
instead of the
maybe
other
I
way around.
misinterpreted that because I heard that a different way. But maybe you're right about that. It was like, oh, okay. Well, what do we do to serve you, regulators?
And we've tried, like, say, when the SEC called out and said, "Hey, any of you crypto projects, come and here is the place you can contact us and get questions answered, give us feedback." Because we were at the time, we were already talking to multiple congressional and senator staffs about what we saw was missing. That if you guys would just lay it out, just tell us the rules, we'll all follow them. That's the whole point of it. If you want innovation to survive and prosper in the U.S., that's what you should be doing. And so we worked on a few that they tried to get them started into bills, but that never happened. It's a long process. But they called the SEC up. The guy, he flipped the lid because we were already talking to the investigators, and they tried to get me in trouble for calling them. Like, literally, you guys are asking for this, and when I call up, you act like there's something horribly wrong. And it was ridiculous. It was crazy.
I think part of that,
How'd you
Joe,
find our phone number?
like the quote from JFK about secrecy.
Yes,
I think that
we play that.
I've noticed that it seems like, especially with YouTube, that the more they have ambiguity, the more authority they have, because they can just throw stuff at you. That's wrong. What you did was wrong. But what did I do that was wrong? You violated, our rules. What's the rule that I violated? Go read the rules.
Yep.
So
we'll play that. I will tell you. Was it David Vincent Foster? I think is his name, the historian. I once read this book that at first I was like, I was a little dry, but it turned into this thing. It was very enlightening because he basically describes what the difference between the American Republic and ancient Rome. One of the major differences was that they didn't have a written constitution at the start. That they had basically, if you're a senator, you kind of got to say what you wanted, and if you had trouble with someone in power and they knew a senator, you were screwed because to defend yourself.
I think that's one of the worst things that I've seen happen, because like government is not real. It's just an idea. If everybody just doesn't believe in, if there's a law that says you can't, blow your nose in public, then everybody blows their nose in public, including the police and the military. Is the law real? So
if we just abstained from giving it credence, you're right.
What I think the attack in the past 2 years has been on the validity of the Constitution, where people, they literally aren't trying to change it. They're trying to say, oh, that's just dumb. Oh, that's, from 200 some years ago. That's not really valid now. That's just dumb.
Yeah.
Forget about it. And I remember where that was like, and
Stare Decisis died in 2000.
I hate this. And this is where the anarchist in me comes out, in this gray area, that I think certain things should be looked at with reverence and almost a religious fervor. Like, this is fanatical. Don't change it. This is the Ten Commandments. This is the Constitution. That's like the U.S. flag, then your state flag. Ten Commandments, Constitution. Just right there. And like when the 1/6 incident happened, and I heard so many people talk about the hallowed halls, and I'm like, dude, it's a building. You know what I mean? They're talking about it like it was a church or a place of worship. And
they also lied about who was present. So they tried to say that certain people were present in the building to make it then a violation or a more serious
but it was the
situation that people were inside the building.
It was the way they talked about it, like it was a religious place. And that bothered the crap out of me. But then when it comes to the Constitution, it's like enshrined. It means so much. And I was raised that it's like, it's law. It's almost like, it's basically putting into words what God wanted, I guess. You have the right to defend yourself. You have the right to speak. So those things are so important. They're akin to a religious text. Whatever you.
I think the problem with it is that they weren't bold enough to go as far as they ought to have when they wrote it. If there were flaws in it, it's that they tried to enumerate rather than try to enunciate general principles. Like if the whole Bill of Rights had been, the 10th Amendment, and that's it. The rights that you have now are the rights that you shall always have, and the government won't have more. Like something more along those lines, something that just outright said you have a right to not just laws written by Congress that abridge free speech, but that abridge free thought, that abridge free exploration, like a free mind that you own yourself. Those things they were afraid to write that much. They didn't want to take it quite that far because there were just a few too many royalists they had to convince to be chill about it. And I think we've come a lot further today.
Something like that, and the evolution of it, Articles of Confederation to the, I mean, it's like, that was a cycle. You have to kind of know all of the parts to kind of see how, they kind of did the best they could do. But yeah, that's the weakness now probably is in our civics and honor, that we're not actually paying attention to at least what was intended by it, and trying to say, well, yeah, I'm not just going to say that, it's old and, it doesn't mean it. It's, literally the thing that's made us what we are here.
Right.
But
like, how do you interpret, the Fourth Amendment in the context of things that get technically shared with the Switch is owned by third parties? Is that a disclosure of your thing? Like, why is that a question we're asking? Why shouldn't we just have a right to privacy?
And the attack vectors, they got rid of a lot of the attack vectors of their time, but you speak the deep state. I mean, the worst part of it is that boiling a frog is one huge attack vector on your rights. So
it's the administrative state. People shouldn't even call it the deep state. It's just the fact that they set these legislative power grants up to these experts, expecting them to know what to do with all these things. And they're like, well, shit, what do we do with cryptocurrency? And they called up all these legislative grants of power, all these administrative agencies, and said, what do we do? And they go, well, I know what to do, because they just saw budget signs go, like their dollar signs were in their eyes when they called them up and asked that question. I wonder how many new wings I should plan in my new building.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's one group coordinating everything, but I know there are a lot of other groups that are coordinating things.
It's the nature of the beast. It sort of expands, right? It's not like, it's like the flood more from Halo than it is like an intelligent plan.
Yes.
I feel like it's the luxury of, in some aspects, it's the luxury of patience, that like the little guy doesn't have the luxury of waiting it out the way that people with vast resources can just sit back and wait until you're dried up and they don't have to do shit.
Right. Well, it's by design.
That's kind of what Joe was talking about, though, in the story in the movie, is that, and his wife brought it up, I guess several times, or the people brought it up. She said, what could we have done with that money and that time?
Yeah.
That they drained our company, with Joe's time and ran Eileen off with the threats, and I mean, that's how they. How do you eat an elephant? A bite at a time.
Yeah.
And so they have unlimited resources to go after, these companies that are innovating and trying to start new things and build, and they have unlimited resources. So it's just really, I don't know.
Yep.
Yeah, I found out today the SEC has a $2.5 billion a year budget to go after apparently innovators.
Whoever they want. Yeah.
Right.
Well, so that's open source money.
That was pretty good. It was
that's pretty good. I like that it was it took me 6 weeks to watch it last time. Because it was one a week on the Discovery Channel or Discovery Science. And so kudos to the team for editing it down to an hour and a half. Now it's a single documentary film. And just to reiterate what I said at the top of the show, you can see that without us, especially at the beginning of the show, I wish I would have thought about we should probably pause before we, talk over it and stuff. So pardon me for that.
It's all good.
But if you want to go see it without all the commentary, it's on opensourcemoney.tv is the website. And then Vision Tree is the YouTube channel. It's on, if you search Open Source Money on YouTube, it'll be on there. And those are the two official channels that it's on. And it's like an hour and 33 minutes, and you can kick back and watch it, and or you can send it to your friends who didn't see us yap about it for 2 hours. But this was good. This was really good, and I appreciate everybody in chat that's been talking to us, and everybody who's been watching, and all of you who have been co-hosting. Yeah, I'm not going to turn it off yet. I just wanted to get my piece
that's
there.
good. If we're good, I mean, it's 2.5 hours. I think we should probably cut it.
Yeah,
anyway, but,
we're 2.5. We're 2:40 in at this point. So yeah.
Do you want to close out with the JFK or John McAfee?
Let's see. I got to see if I've got them pulled up right here.
Maybe play one after the other. Like,
All right.
Yeah.
There we go.
All right. So is the JFK one is where he's talking about the moon, right?
Splinter. No, it's Splinter.
No, it's
That's
the
the
privacy.
Gentlemen.
Yeah.
Got you. All right. So I'm going to play a couple of outro videos here. I might play 3 of them. Who knows? I really like McAfee's. John McAfee was on Super Happy Dragon Lucky, which is on Tuesdays. That's updates with Dragon Chain and Den that Joe does every week, and he has been for the past 3 years. I've slipped in on 1 or 2 of them when he was moving, but otherwise he's been there for 3 years. Updater's going to update all the time. And Lisa and Sean have their own channels as well. They have a show they do together. They have their own shows separately. Greg is with us on World Blockchain Roundtable on Thursdays. Check all that stuff out. I've got a new layer on Den called Coffee with Den. I'm slowly starting to create some additional stuff to go in there aside from the weekly Wednesday show. So, check us all out, that kind of thing.
Thank you to everybody who joined us in the chat. You guys are awesome.
Yeah, it's good seeing you all in the chat.
Last words, anybody, before we go out with it? Because I'm about to click on stuff here.
And thank you, Reggie, if you were able to join us. I know he tried, and we got a hi. How are you? But he had
thanks to
some
Reggie
stuff
too. I
going
didn't mean
on.
to, because your image wasn't there. It slipped my mind. But yes, Reggie with Veritasium. Thank you
He's
very
got
much.
a lot going on.
Yeah, as
And
everyone,
he's in the
everyone here
fight as well.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
Phil,
after I
missed,
mentioned it,
John
it's like
as well. I've been thinking about him a lot actually the past week or so, and he used to always mess with me so bad. He would give me so much shit, and I'm like, I remember one time I was like, "Why do you give me so much shit? You're so nice to everyone else, and you fuck with me all the time." He was like, "Yeah, it's because I love you, man." He's like, he said, "People can't take a joke." This is years ago, before when it was still politically correctness and not wokeness. So it was not as bad. He's like, people can't take a joke anymore. They can't deal with that. He goes, you can. And when I meet someone that can, I'm gonna fuck with them. It's just fun. It's what I want to do. It's because I like you. It's like, all right, man.
Now you know.
That's awesome.
All right. Good night, everybody, and
Good
we'll
night.
see you on the
Thank
next
you.
thing we do. Thanks again. Cheers.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and secret proceedings. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed.
America's not the government, people. The America is you. It is the Grand fucking Canyon, the Rocky Mountains, the deserts of the Southwest, the Pacific fucking Ocean, the Atlantic fucking Ocean. It is the grandest continent. And what the fuck have you people done? You have turned yourself into sheep, every goddamn one of you.